Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there is our theme. There goes the Broadway Daverhood. Good morning, everybody. You are watching the 20th annual Dave's Gone By Broadway special, Tony Awards special, live on this Saturday morning, June 7th, 2025. I was hoping, obviously I wanted to play something from a current Broadway musical, one of the Tony-nominated musicals, but just checking there, just making sure I got something from, 1921, recorded in 1921, so it's public domain, so YouTube and Facebook should be able to play that without giving me any service. That was from a Broadway musical. Those were a recorded theme from a very popular musical of the time called Blossom Time, which I think is a Sigmund Romberg confection. But anywho, Dave Lefkowitz here, and my darling and wonderful and amazing wife is here too, to help us along over the next 3 hours or so, celebrating the season on Broadway, in particular, of course, because the Tony Awards are happening tomorrow night, Sunday evening, from 8 till 11, broadcast on CBS and Paramount Plus or whatever they call it, so you can watch it. And I have some information about the Tony Awards. I've got so many papers here, so much paperwork. But yeah, June 8th, it will be the 78th Tony Awards live, hosted by Cynthia Erivo, and let's see what else. Well, we'll go through some of the Tony nominations, of course. We'll go through some other of the awards that have already been given out in terms of things like the Drama Desk and the Outer Critics Circle. But mainly, let me tell you what's going to be on this program, as we have done 19 previous times. We've got theater critics and experts weighing in on this year's Tony nominations, what they think will win, what they hope will win, a little bit about each of the nominees. Also, their feelings about the season in general, their favorite shows. It's basically a wallowing, a celebration of the Broadway commercial theater and some non-commercial theater too. Now, if you're not a Broadway person, if you're just a regular Dave's Gone By listener, don't go away. Don't feel, oh, this is not for me. We're not going to be so internecine and so abstruse as to leave non-theater people out of the loop. You're going to have fun. There's going to be people talking passionately about what we love, which is the theater. And I also count myself relatively lucky because this year, for reasons that were not wonderful, I was back in New York a bit more than I have been over the past few years and got to see a few more shows. So I've been a little more competent and capable in talking about some of these Tony-nominated shows and musicals than I have been. Because, I saw that one. I can tell you about that. I got my playbills handy. A bunch more also. What else do I have? And we have guests coming up. Let me tell you some of the folks who are going to be on the program. I need my glasses for that. Leslie Hoban Blake and Charlie Gross, the co-hosts of Two on the Aisle on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. David Finkle, critic for New York Stage Review. Eva Heinemann of the long-running theater review show High Drama. Literally, it's H-I exclamation point drama exclamation point. We'll have Brian Scott Lipton, who writes for Culture Vulture and City Tour. Jonathan Mandell, a newbie in the neighborhood. In the Daverhood. He has his website newyorktheater.me, and he has written for a bunch of other places as well. Carey Purcell of TDF Stages and other places. David Sheward, of course, our beloved David Sheward is back in the Daverhood. He writes for TotalTheater.com. Raven Snook, the chief editor of TDF Stages, Zachary Stewart, who is the chief critic at Theater Mania, and also my old boss and friend, Robert Viagas, who has been writing a bunch of books about theater and other things. So here's what's going to happen. Some of these folks are going to weigh in on specific Tony categories, like Best Featured Actor in a Musical and Best Book or Original Score. We're also going to have Robert, Eva, and David Sheward. They're going to be playing our trivia quiz. That's coming up in a bit, where I'll be asking some trivia questions that these are ringers. These people know their stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see who pulls out the win in our trivia quiz. Also, not very, very far from least, I haven't mentioned him yet, the winner of this year's Regional Theater Tony, as selected by the American Theater Critics Association and then approved by the folks at the Broadway League, is the Muni Theater in St. Louis. Well, the artistic director and producer of the Muni Theater, Mike Isaacson, is going to be with us. He's going to be talking about theater in St. Louis and very specifically the history of the Muni, and then basically quelling and basking in winning the Tony this year. So yeah, Mike Isaacson going to join us in the Daverhood, and it would not be a Dave's Gone By or a Broadway celebration without Rabbi Sol Solomon. Rabbi Sol, he has done Rabbinical Reflections, almost 200 of them at this point. They're mini sermons. This time, as usual, he's going to be talking about the Tonys, the nominees, and the Jewishness, or in this case, lack thereof, of a lot of the Tony nominations this year. Always fun and a little bit controversial to hear Rabbi Sol Solomon. He will be with us as well. All of that today on our Dave's Gone By 20th Annual Total Theater Broadway Special. Going to wish my darling and adorable wife a big thank you for helping me put this set. She basically put the whole set together, so thank you for that. How you feeling, hon? How's it going? Are you excited about the program?
I'm excited about the program, but I don't know any of the shows, so you'll have to educate me and the viewers, yes.
That's the point of listening to, well, there's no point in listening to me, but that's the point of listening to our experts, our panelists, of having some fun.
Something from Phantom here.
That's right, I'm going down the canal in the little boat. There it is. There it is. So, yeah. And it's great to have you with us every week. But wonderful to have you with us here today.
Packed schedule. Look at this. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, it's quite a roster. Before we get to our first guest, though, as I mentioned, let's not forget
Your
that
first guest is in 2 minutes.
I'm hoping. I reminded him. So yeah, we have some live people. We have some pre-recorded people. Sometimes things they don't get completely out of hand, but we get into time. We'll get through it.
Morning on a Saturday, people might be sleeping, or maybe they went out last evening.
It's a rainy AM day, and I'll keep checking my mail just in case we get any last minute. But we're good. I think we're good.
I'll check.
But until then, the Tony Awards celebrate excellence on Broadway. Right, Broadway shows that opened within a certain period, generally between May of a certain year, and then it goes until the next late April or early May. It's that full year, not calendar year, but the essential Broadway season year. Well, and it's Broadway only. There are other awards that are given out. You may have heard of them, things like the Drama Desk and the New York Theater Critics Circle and places like that also give out awards. So we do want to, as a preface, let you know some of the winners of this year's quote-unquote other awards, some of them also that incorporate off-Broadway too. So, for example, let me get to page here. I don't want to say first and foremost, but the Pulitzer Prize for drama went to a play that it is Tony nominated this year on Broadway. It's Purpose by Brandon Jacobs Jenkins. It's on here somewhere. I have the playbill for it. I don't want to get these two out of order. But do I have one?
Oh, it's the blue one on top, honey.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I got it here.
Oh, nice.
Purpose. And I think it was a really terrific play and production. So Purpose won the Pulitzer, beating out Oh Mary, that's that yellow one here with Cola Scola, and The Ally, which was an off-Broadway piece by Itamar Moses. So that was the Pulitzer. And by the way, we mentioned the American Theater Critics. The Atka Steinberg Award also went to Purpose when it played at the Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago. It was for an outstanding new play produced outside of New York City. The Drama Desk Awards, let me get to those. Those were announced on June 1st, presented at NYU Skirball Center by Titus Burgess and Deborah Messing. You know her from Will and Grace.
Oh, wow.
So they gave, not the happiest thing, but they gave a Lifetime Achievement Award to Gavin Creel, who died, young. I don't remember the exact circumstances, but he passed away a few months ago. And then the William Wolfe Award. They designated a special award to someone that I knew. Someone was my teacher at NYU.
Aggressive cancer.
Yeah. Yeah, so Gavin Creel
He was
getting
known for Hello Dolly, opposite Bette Midler, and he got a Tony in 2017.
Tony winner Gavin Creel. So he's getting a Lifetime Achievement from the Drama Desk. Brian Stokes Mitchell was given the William Wolfe Award. Purpose won for Best Play. Maybe Happy Ending took Best Musical. And then Revival of a Play went to Eureka Day, which I saw both off-Broadway and on. I preferred it off-Broadway, but it's a funny piece. And then, let's see, some other things. The New York Drama Critics Circle, a very respected group, this is a small coterie of about a dozen critics. For them, Best Play, Purpose by Brandon Jacobs Jenkins. Maybe Happy Ending took their Best Musical. Andrew Scott did a solo version of Uncle Vanya that was down, I think it was at BAM, or I could be wrong about that. But anyway, he won for performance. The cast of the off-Broadway show Liberation won for ensemble. I think I have the playbill for that. I went to it was very good. And then Lifetime Achievement went to David Greenspan, who I actually mentioned in a play. I don't think I mentioned him by name, but I made fun of him in a play that I wrote about a decade ago. And it's amazing. I saw him in something unbelievably terrible. And then he goes on to have a very, very long career off and sometimes even on Broadway, and just got a Lifetime Achievement Award. And special awards went to O. Mary and the revisal, if you will, of Cats, The Jellicle Ball. The Outer Critics Circle, what did they do? Now, Outer Critics, the whole thing of them is they both, like the Drama Desk, they do Broadway and off-Broadway together. And they're... What was I going to say? Oh, it's by writers who are writing about New York theater, but for...
I just a reminder, so please join us in the Zoom room.
Yeah, it's already late. Always something. The Outer Critics write for journals and newspapers and magazines, and obviously they were founded long before the internet, where everything goes everywhere. This is back when you'd have someone writing for a Connecticut newspaper about Broadway. They would be in Outer Critics. Anyway, these were announced back on May 12th. They had a ceremony on May 22nd at the Public Library, the Performing Arts Library at Lincoln Center. Maybe Happy Ending took 4 of their wins. Wow. Boop and Stranger Things tied with 3. Broadway play did not go to Purpose. It went to John Proctor is the Villain. Broadway musical did go to Maybe Happy Ending. That also won for book and score. And then for the Best American Play, the John Gassner Award, that went to one of the few Broadway shows this year that non-Broadway people would have any thought about, the George Clooney piece, Good Night and Good Luck, all about Edward R. Murrow. So those were the Outer Critics Circle Awards, and Revival of the Play went to that Vanya. We mentioned the adaptation of Uncle Vanya. Off-Broadway musical went to Drag, the musical, and Revival of a Musical went to Cats, The Jellicle Ball. That was the Outer Critics. And finally, the Lucille Lortel Awards. They gave Lucille Lortel is specifically for shows that are off-Broadway. They're not in one of the 40-something theaters technically on Broadway. They're in smaller theaters that have fewer than 500 seats and some other stuff about them. The winner of Best Play was Here There Are Blueberries, which was done by New York Theater Workshop. Musical went to Three Houses. A Revival of a Play went to Our Class. Solo went to Vanya, with Andrew Scott adapting Anton Chekhov. And Ensemble went to Our Class. Oh, and Alice Childress, the African-American playwright, she got her name on the Playwrights Sidewalk. And is there a greater reward than that? Is there something greater than getting your name on the Playwrights Sidewalk, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, and congratulations to our friend of the Daverhood, Woody L. King, because his new federal theater won a Lucille Lortel Award, kind of a lifetime achievement thing for body of work. And the Edith Oliver Service Award to Off-Broadway went to Carol Fishman. Okay, that's a lot of facts and figures. That's a lot of names and numbers. Speaking of numbers, though, let me give you a quick sense of the Broadway theater this past year. Now, understand, we're only 5 years past the pandemic, the arrival of COVID that shut down, essentially, theater in New York for a full year or so, if you remember. Who doesn't remember that? Although it does feel in the rearview mirror now. Broadway houses are packed. They're making money. Oh, sorry, what was that?
When you went, it was full?
Well, not every single seat to every show I went, but it was booming. And here's the proof. Granted, this also has to do with the fact that they keep raising Broadway prices to astronomical levels. But the 2024-25 Broadway season had the biggest box office grosses ever, surpassing the pre-pandemic high of 1.8 billion. Well, the new record is 1.8. It was 1.79. So they notched past like 2019 of where Broadway was before the pandemic.
Crazy.
Isn't that amazing? Now, certain reasons for this, as I mentioned, are ticket prices. Things like Othello, Glengarry Glen Ross, The Revival, Good Night and Good Luck, co-written by and starring George Clooney. These were asking for tickets that were, $500 and up for an orchestra, not even VIP, just a seat to these things, and not on the aftermarket, like just going to the box office or on ticket telecharge and buying these things. So, and these were shows that made $2 million a week. Oh, crap. Okay. We have our first guest in the Daverhood, so we're going to have to rush through him a little bit, but I'm very thrilled that he is joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, no, actually, he's perfectly on time. It's the other guy who hasn't shown up. Shame on you, David.
Come back. I sent him an email. Let's see.
Yeah, but a thrill and a joy to have someone brand new.
Yes.
Well, he wrote back?
No. I'm just saying yes.
A thrill and a joy to have a brand new guest in the Daverhood. He is Jonathan Mandell. Well, let me admit him, and then I'll tell you about him. But it's always great when we get new blood. It's wonderful to have all these old friends and friends of the Daverhood, but we have a brand new person here to talk about Book of a Musical. His name is Jonathan Mandell. Let me make sure my volume is all the way up. And now he's entering the Daverhood. For the very first time, I bet he has butterflies. I know I do.
Oh.
He's coming. I see his name. Okay.
Unless you're reading.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Okay, he's working his way into the Daverhood as we speak. Anyway, I'll tell you about Jonathan Mandell. He's a longtime theater critic, a graduate.
Slow internet connections.
I know, right?
Those mice are working hard.
You will appreciate this. He got one of his degrees at Yale and another at Columbia. So he's a Columbia graduate.
He's a double Ivy.
He's a theater writer for American Theater, TDF Stages, member of the Drama Desk and Outer Critics Circle, and of course,
A voting member.
Yeah, like what they call an active member. He's with us. He needs to unmute his microphone so we can hear him.
Yay.
So, Jonathan, if you can. So I
you can give him the.
I keep clicking the button too. Jonathan, you need to unmute. Is that you, John? Or is that a picture? John, can you wave or move or? John, can you hear me? Aha! Here we go. All right, now we got something.
Hide and seek.
He turned into the picture of Dorian Gray for a moment.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, Jonathan Mandell is here, ladies and gentlemen. Jonathan, can you hear me and can we hear you? Hello, Jonathan Mandell. Welcome to the Daverhood. How you doing?
Good.
Good. Okay. So overall,
Your 20th annual Tony special. That's a lot of years.
is that, yeah. Well, we've been on the air for about 23 years, and we were able to do a Tony show for most of them, and it's a delight and a joy to have experts like you weighing in on the Broadway.
Frozen.
So are you. But keep talking because we can kind of hear you.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't go through, we'll have to cut the segment. But we're hoping it'll work. And even if you're a little frozen or I'm frozen, I'll ask you a question and I think your audio's okay. So, Jonathan, let's go right to your category, which is Book of a Musical. These are the Tony nominations. I'm going to read them off, and then you can totally have at them. So we have Maybe Happy Ending by Will Aronson and Hugh Park, Operation Mincemeat by a whole bunch of people, Dead Outlaw by Itamar Moses, Death Becomes Her by Marco Panett, and Buena Vista Social Club by Marco Ramirez. So, Jonathan Mandell, please give us your thoughts on these nominated Books of a Musical.
Is he a seal? It's a problem. Oh no.
Keep trying to. Okay, now talk.
This is, and I don't know if that's happening on your end or not. So I
We're
hope
good
you
now.
can
We're good now.
continue.
Keep talking.
So the people you mentioned from Operation Mincemeat are part of a comic troupe from Britain called Split Lip. They both wrote the book and the songs and perform in it. So
Keep talking.
uh,
Boy. Okay, you're
I
frozen.
just wanted to clarify
Sure.
that. What's interesting about the book of these were also all the shows that were nominated for Best Musical, and that kind of shows the importance of the book. I think there's a common misconception that what the librettist does is write the dialogue between the music, and they're often blamed if the show bombs, and they're never given credit if the show's a success. But in fact, the librettists or book writers very much shape the show. They often direct where the songs could go and suggest what songs should.
You're frozen. You're frozen, buddy. Boy.
What scenes or parts should be musicalized. So it's an interesting. I don't know if I want to. This is a stretch or not, but it seems to be speaking to our cultural, if not our political moment. That 3 of the 5 musicals, both the ones nominated for Best Musical and the ones nominated for Best Book, focus on macabre subjects and make light of them. And 2 of those macabre subjects are actually true stories, and both of them involve corpses. That's Operation Mincemeat and Dead Outlaw. They're based on true stories. I can explain that quickly. The other 2.
By the way, we're talking with Jonathan Mandell, who's
In
having.
contrast,
Mm.
are personal stories with a kind of a certain amount of heart to them. And I'm wondering if there's sort of the 2 sides of how to respond to what's happening in America, if not the world now. And depending on who wins, it's which side, whether it's escapist or engagement, whether it's making light of the world or going deep inside personally, which is happening here, which will emerge as the primary response. This is maybe taking too much of Broadway shows, but it was just sort of interesting that there are these strands. To talk
You're frozen, bro.
about the individual ones,
Jonathan, Jonathan, I'm
2 people who are also the component.
yeah, Jonathan, I got
One most of
yeah. This is not happening, Jonathan. You're I don't know if you're in a bunker somewhere in Lower Manhattan or somewhere, but you're just every other sentence you're starting to freeze, and we can't even hear what you're saying. So I apologize. I'm thrilled that you tried to make it here with us, but it's just not. You know, I'm trying to hear what you're saying, and you start getting on the subject, and then it's gone, and it disappears into the ozone. So I'm going to try this one more time away from the. Can you say your favorite show of the year, Broadway or off Broadway? No, you're frozen again. Okay, Jonathan Mandell, thank you very, very, very much. I apologize. We'll try and work this out a pre-tape next year, but it's somehow the internet has not been. Oh, louder? Okay.
you froze.
I'm sorry, John. I'm so sorry. Thank you anyway. Okay, hold on.
Participants move to waiting room.
Put in waiting room. Okay. All right. So sorry. Yeah, so all right. So this is how this episode is going so far. We had one guest who never showed up, and another guest who showed up ready and willing and everything, and then technology just defeats us. But maybe,
So let me ask you then, who do you think should be the best actor in a musical?
well, this is he was doing best book of a musical.
So who do you think should be best book? The librettist, he said.
Of the ones that I have seen, interesting. I'm uncertain. I like maybe Happy Ending a lot, but I don't remember it that much. I thought while I was watching, I really had a wonderful time, and I loved. It's very, very clever, but it's not like it stuck with me the way I thought it would. Mincemeat has, although I have a lot of problems with Operation Mincemeat.
I mean, he was saying that the librettist is more than just like filler, right? And a lot of people think they're filler, wasn't he saying?
Well, yeah, a lot of people think, they're just there to string the songs together, which is what they were doing before 1940.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But no, it's a lot of times,
Better than-
so many Broadway shows now, and maybe not the ones that are nominated, are so generic sounding in their scores, and yet they're enjoyable. Why? Because they're telling a good story, So maybe. Anyway, we have our next guest, so we're going to go right to her.
Sure, this looks like Carey Purcell, no?
Yeah, Carey Purcell. She's been with us a time or two. She is a critic. Well, let me admit her. Let me tell you about her. So Carey Purcell is a critic for TDF Stages magazine. She's a member of the American Theater Critics Association. She has written for the New York Times, for Vanity Fair, and she's the author of a book called From Opera Band to Fun Home, all about feminism in theater. And she is here! And I actually see her blinking and saying hello. Oh, Carey, please pull us out of the disaster that this program has been so far. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. How was the season overall for you, Carey?
I thought it was great. I really enjoyed this season. I thought it was not only great performances and productions, but it was a bit more of a mix of more somber, reflecting upon the world kind of shows, and some that were just fun and not trying to be anything but fun. And we need those right now, too.
Totally true. So Carey's category is featured actor in a musical. So you have lead actors in a musical. They're the folks who are kind of above the title on the Tony page. It's like the star, the person that everybody's buying tickets to go see, whether it is George Clooney or who is the guy in McNeil? I'm blanking.
Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. People throw money at him. They want to see Denzel in Othello. But the under people who have big scenes and important parts too, or sometimes just one really great scene, they're featured performers just like they are in the Oscars. So here are the nominees of featured actor in a musical for this past Broadway season. Those include Brooks Ashmanskas, who is in Smash, Jeb Brown in Dead Outlaw, Danny Burston, our friend of the Daverhood in Gypsy, Jack Malone for Operation Mincemeat, and Taylor Trench in Floyd Collins. Carey Purcell, what are your thoughts on this category?
I think it's a stacked category with some truly outstanding performances. I mean, to start with Danny Burstein saying that he's amazing in a show is like saying the sky is blue. I've never seen a show that he's been in and not walked away to saying, "Oh my God." Um, this was the second Gypsy I've seen. I've only seen two so far. I'm sure that number will go up as my time in New York goes on. And what was delightful was he made Herbie so different from the previous Herbie that I'd seen. And with Herbie, you have to really understand why he stays with Rose when, frankly, she's not that nice to him sometimes and she's not that appreciative of him sometimes. And Danny made Herbie a person, not a doormat. You could see that he was frustrated, that he knew in some ways he deserved better, but he loved this woman so much and he believed in her so much. So he gave her what she needed, but she wasn't giving him what he needed. And when he finally did decide to leave her, it was a really devastating moment because you could see that he was finally acknowledging, I can't do this anymore. This isn't what's right for me. I thought he was amazing. Jeb Brown in Dead Outlaw, the most fun I've ever heard, hearing someone sing at me, your mom's dead, your dad's dead, your whole family's dead. And he was really fun to watch as kind of a narrator and commentator. Um, I can't believe this is his first Tony nomination. He made his Broadway debut when he was 10. in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof with Elizabeth Ashley. And he's doing so much in this show, and he makes it look so effortless. He's really responsible for keeping the energy of everyone on the stage and everyone in the audience up, and he does it. Um, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, oh no, I just saying no, no. Please continue.
Brooks in Smash, I couldn't believe this was only his third nomination because everything I've seen him in, he's just walked away with the scene very tidily. Promises, Promises, Present Laughter, those are shows he wasn't nominated for, but I still remember him. And those were like 15 years ago. And what I loved about his performance was Nigel could have easily been a caricature in the hands of a less skilled writer or a less skilled actor. He could have just been a bunch of tropes about a theater director, a gay man in the theater, a gay man of a certain age in the theater. But Nigel showed why we love and hate this industry sometimes, why it can drive us so crazy, but we keep coming back to it. You know that underneath his frustration and his bluster, there's a reason why he's there. He believes in that show, he believes in that cast, and the one-liners he dropped every time the teacher, I can't remember her name, Christine Nielsen's character was, lurking around the room, in that black robe. He killed it every single line he dropped. A lot of what he was written, he could have made over the top, but he made it so human. I really felt for him and wanted to take him to Sardi's and buy him at least one drink once the performance ended. Well, I'd like to have a drink with Brooks anyway, even if he's not in character. And then there's Taylor Trench and Floyd Collins, and I was really curious about this one because I'm always curious how journalists are portrayed in shows, especially musicals. Very often it's just the swirling trench coat hunched over a notepad, like in Diana the musical. But Taylor had to show the conflict of, do I get involved in this situation as a human being, or do I stay an impartial reporter and do my job but not try to help when physically he was the only person who could help, who could get down there?
Hmm.
And you really watch him grow up over the course of that show. And seeing anyone grow up, especially on that huge behemoth of a stage in Lincoln Center, is a real accomplishment. I'll admit I struggled to connect with a lot of characters in Floyd Collins, but I really, really connected with Skeets. I was watching him the most on that enormous stage. And then there's Jack Malone, who I think is going to win. My goodness, I could talk for 20 minutes straight about Jack in Operation Mincemeat. I mean, not only does he play so many roles, but even when he's just switching from one to another by turning and putting a hat on, completely different person. If you're listening to the cast recording without having seen it, you would probably think it's a different actor. And whether it's he's playing kind of an over the top caricature like the corpse seller Bernard Spilsbury, who's kind of like a jazzy Sweeney Todd almost, or
Yes.
or Willie Watkins, the American who crashes and sings that very upbeat song about how he's got a good feeling even though his plane is crashing. And he did that with just enough American accent that it was a little bit obnoxious compared to all the British accents. But then, I mean, when he's playing Hester and singing Dear Bill, I have been doing this for almost 20 years. I have never heard a theater be that silent during that song. And he's standing completely still while singing this song, this song of helping to compose a letter, a fake letter to a fiance from this corpse that they're pretending was a soldier to carry off this deceptive strategy in the war. But then as the song progresses, you realize that Hester is actually singing about someone she loved and lost. And the British are, it's kind of a caricature, a joke that they're unemotional, take a drink every time you hear the phrase get on with it while watching The Crown and you'd end up in the hospital. The pacing of the emotion that Jack achieves during that song, just bit by bit, you slowly realize what's happening. And it's so honest and so raw and so heartbreaking, but also so British, so tasteful. I mean, the words aren't hyperbolic, but when he sings the lyric, "Why did we meet in the middle of a war? What a silly thing for anyone to do." The amount of emotion in those two sentences was just devastating. I think it's such an accomplishment just from that one song, let alone all the other characters.
In fact, I totally agree with you. I was talking about even if it's just one scene. Had Jack Malone not done anything else on the show, if he'd just been that one character, Hester, the secretary, it's like, yep, he's going to win the feature Tony for that song.
Yeah,
Which is a
Katie
great
Jenner
thing.
and Promises, Promises. She only has that one song. If that can be a beautiful thing, but she won the Tony for it back in I think 2010.
Now, speaking of beautiful things, what, Carey Purcell, was your favorite, were your favorite one or two shows of the whole season on or off Broadway?
John Proctor is the villain.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
I
because, right?
Oh my God. I think that show is not only wonderfully directed. Danya Taylor is criminally talented, my goodness. Wonderfully acted, wonderfully executed, but also I think it is a vital, relevant, and extremely necessary show to be doing right now. That play shows to the audience without preaching, without getting didactic, just how much junk young women are carrying around with them emotionally every day when they're trying to grow up and figure out who they are and what's important to them and what their values are and what their sexuality is and how do they interact with other people, while also trying to be, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, woke, respectful, up on the news, remembering to, ask what people's pronouns are, remembering to deciding what believe all women means to them and how that can be executed in the world. Was it was so validating. I mean, I am not a young woman anymore. I'm definitely not a teenager, but my goodness, I left the theater saying I need to bring my niece to see this. She's 14 years old now. She's got to come see this. It shows, and it shows also how easy it can be to be deceived by someone who has more power than you and knows how to manipulate you with it. I'm rooting for Gabriel Ebert as well. What a fantastic, layered, also well-paced performance as the teacher. But I think everyone should see that show, everyone of every gender identity, sexuality, age. I think that if that show wins the Tony, it'll get more regional performances. And that show needs to be everywhere because people have no idea what young women are carrying around with them, dealing with, trying to work their way through every day. And it honors that so beautifully.
She's talking about John Proctor is the Villain, Carey Purcell's favorite show of the season. You've argued for it so well. And, I saw it. I want to see it again. It was really and exciting and very well written and show with a lot in it. And you, Carey Purcell, are exciting with so much in you, obviously, and so well spoken. We can read you. Let's see. Your main thing is TDF Stages magazine. But where else are you writing?
Right now, yes.
You have your own website, right? It's
Yes. It's careypurcell.com. It's where most of my theater reviews are published, and all of my published work in other publications is there as well, linked to the other publications. And it's also got a link where you can buy my book.
Oh, that's right. From Opera Band to Fun Home. What is the subtitle on that? I didn't.
A Cultural History of Feminist Theater.
Cultural History of Feminist Theater. Ladies and gentlemen, Carey Purcell. Wishing you a wonderful next Broadway season, of course. In fact, you're so great. I'm going to ask you even one more question. What are you looking forward to this coming, which has already started, but this season, what entices you, if you will?
Oh gosh, I barely know what's coming up because I've been keeping track of this season. I'm curious about Black Swan. I just heard about that. It's not going to be on Broadway next season, but I'm really curious how that will be adapted for the stage. I think that could go really, really well in the right hands. I don't know who's writing it, but that's another story where I think if it's told well, it'll show how much a female character has to shoulder every day while maintaining a certain physical and outward presence of femininity and male-directed beauty. So I'm curious about that.
Well, you are a swan in all our eyes. Carey Purcell, thank you. I know that sounded sexist. It was the only thing I could think of. But anyway, thank you so much. Happy Tony time to you, and thank you so much for being in the Daverhood.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye-bye. On the Total Theater Tony Show, Carey Purcell. And we also thank and apologize, of course, to Jonathan Mandell for not being able to really speak the stuff that he wanted to speak. Oh, well. You know what? It's like theater. It's live. People always say, well, the thing about theater is that stuff can go wrong. That's what makes it exciting. Not really. No, you go to the theater because moments of joy and excitement and sadness and profundity happen, not because, oh, someone dropped a tray or scenery fell. Like that, of course, is part of it, but it's not what you hope for. It's not what you look for. It's not like, oh, everything can go wrong. The idea of theater is it's live and everything can go right. So far, we've had wonderful things go right on this 986th episode of the Dave's Gone By show. We're calling this our Total Theater Broadway special. It's our 20th. And I want to say annual, but I think we had to miss one during the pandemic. But anywho, I'm Dave Lefkowitz. My darling and wonderful wife is here, and we are now going to share screen for our next guest because this is very, very cool. The Muni Theater.
What is it? Yeah, what is the Muni? I thought that was his the name for him, his nickname.
Well, no, it actually stands for, and it was this more than 100 years ago.
University, Manhattan.
No, it's not. It's not New York. This was the winner this year of the Regional Theater Award from the Tonys, and it stands for Municipal Opera.
St. Louis.
Yes, it's the St. Louis Muni. And it was, it was founded so long ago that opera was essentially the Broadway musical of the time and operetta and stuff. So the artistic director and executive producer of the Muni, Mike Isaacson, he's got to be over the moon over what's happening tomorrow and his theater being recognized. He's been there.
They're having a watch party tomorrow and Sunday for the Tonys.
Who, the Muni?
Yeah.
Of course they are. They're there, yeah. And Mike Isaacson has been there for over a decade. And during that tenure, that time, the profile of the Muni and the quality of the Muni has been going up, way up, which is one of the reasons that the American theater critics chose them to recommend to the Tony people for a Tony.
Theater? They do.
Musical, and I think.
So then why? But they're
back in the day, it was an opera house.
Musicals that are enacted. They're not just sung.
Oh, absolutely! No, it's huge. It's just bigger than any Broadway theater. It's a big outdoor theater. As a matter of fact, Mike Isaacson is going to tell us about it. I just have to share the screen for a moment. How do I do this?
Show you.
Share.
There
There we go.
Bottom, the green little button, share.
There we go. And now here is Mike Isaacson talking about the Muni. Going to make it big and step away from the mic. Here on the Total Theater Dave's Gone By Broadway special, very delighted to have a brand new person in the Daverhood, but couldn't think of a more appropriate personage to be interviewed on the program because the winner of the Regional Theater Tony this year, as recommended by the American Theater Critics Association, by the way. Got to slip that in there because I'm a member and I vote. So congratulations to the Muni, which is the St. Louis Municipal Opera Theater. No, that's the reason everybody calls it Muni. It's the only thing anybody can remember. But I know it's got the name opera in there, but really they do Broadway, they do musicals, and have been for over 100 years. This particular person, Mike Isaacson, has been artistic director for about nine and a half years. And we want to, I'm sorry?
This is my 14th season.
14th? Oh, I need to make some new notes. Okay, well, congratulations then. So, first of all, Mike Isaacson, Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov, thank you.
Now, how does it feel to be a Tony winner? Have you felt already good things, blowback, potential funding, stuff that comes from getting a Tony?
Much more the former. The really beautiful moment. Look, we have this incredible tradition. We have this incredible relationship with the Broadway community. So many artists begin here, have worked here, have developed here. So when this announcement hit, it was not only in St. Louis because it's their theater. Not only was there such local joy and excitement, but the Broadway community kind of went crazy. It was really beautiful. And the emails and the texts and, Tommy Toon choreographed his first show here. Tom Kitts, you name them, they've worked here at some point, even to this day, albeit some, because I also produce on Broadway sort of at something and someone will go, oh yeah, I was at the Muni when I was an intern. And, it just, it has this beautiful, rich tradition. And so this moment of sort of these communities meeting at this And it's also, everybody here, I will say for myself, my first season was 2012. We have worked really hard on the transformation of a theater. It is a very, very different place than the place I walked into and what we've all done together. So it meant so much to all my colleagues here to be seen in this way, because it's been a lot of hard work. And so we're really proud of it.
I do want to ask about that, because you're both the artistic director and the executive producer. So what does it mean when you literally specifically say that you guys transformed the theater over the last decade and a half? What do you mean by that?
It's sort of twofold. I will say from the stage back to sort of where my office were there, everything is completely different. The stage house, every process, how we create the work, how we format our rehearsals, how we cast, how we create, how we design. We have three, we were using video technology long before anybody else was, and now it's commonplace in almost all set design, as it should be. So these elements so we have we have created a unique way to tell our stories. And when you see a Muni production, it's singular. And I know that sounds hyperbolic, but it's true. And we do that going forward, from the audience forward. The Muni has, that I gloriously inherited, this is the most democratic theater in the United States. Unparalleled, hands down. There are 1,500 free seats a night. We have 200 to 300 seats a night that are given to specific communities in our area, underserved communities, people who come to the theater, they're given transportation to that. The majority of tickets in the theater are actually priced like whatever a movie is right now. So people can come in families of 4. And then you have even our best seats, which are sort of passed down in families, generations to generations, are still like, I think like 100 or 105 or something. So access and participation is embedded. The inspiration for the place was a civic idea before it became this sort of artistic powerhouse. And it was a mayor who said, if we create this in the middle of their city, particularly the way St. Louis was then, Forest Park is in the middle, and it's sort of on this hill, and people would come on blankets and watch Shakespeare, and then it sort of moved into operetta, which is why it was always the municipal opera. If you look at the first 30 years, it's all operetta, because you're talking 20s, 30s, and people forget operetta was dominant well into the mid-40s, if not the early 50s, everywhere. Yeah, that was, if you take Oklahoma is at what, 46?
Something like, right around the war, just the end of the war, yeah.
Right. That's really you've got Showboat in 29 sort of popping up in this here, but those were aberrations. The form was this other thing that was, in terms of popular entertainment, what was played on the radio, and then musical theater as a whole. You sort of had musical comedy to a degree, but as that moved forward, then eventually got into the system. It wasn't really till the late 50s that the Muni was all musicals. You sort of had this period. So anyway, the point being, you have this other tradition that sort of morphed into that. But the audience when I came in the door, what I would say, here's what I said to the board. I said, here's the great news. Everybody loves the Muni. I'm in town. People are so excited. They go, I love the Muni, love me. And I look at them and I say, great, when's the last time you went? And the blood would draw from their face. And they're like, well, blah, blah, blah. And what I said to the board is, they love the place, but it's like a lovely aunt who lives next door. I love her, but don't make me have dinner with her. And we have to change that. Because in its heyday, it was a vital present tense form, a way of life in St. Louis. And we have together over the last 13 years returned it to that for the audience. And that choose, changing the repertory, changing the style of how we tell the stories, the casting, just everything, so it feels theirs in present tense. And it is, people who have seen it, it is a very clear difference.
Now, it's not what you would call a touring house. It's not like you get the Broadway tours. You are doing in-house productions of some pretty well-known musicals. Are you generally the director, or are you bringing hired guns, or?
Each show has its own creative team. So you see this labyrinth behind me. So here, for example, there's Come From Away. So you see director, choreographer, music director, each show has its own dedicated 13 to 15 member team. So my colleagues and I here, I mean, that's what we're spending, hiring, creating, talking, doing that. And my job is to, with all of them, we know the show, but talk about what is it now, what is it on our stage, what can we do, what are the elements we can bring to it. And with the directors and designers, hear that vision and say, great, we're going to give, and I work with everybody here, our stagehands, our incredible build crew, costumes, we're going to give you everything we've got to create that on our stage. So for the audience, what I inherited, when you talk about the transformation, what I inherited was basically a factory model. People came here and what they were told is, this is how we do shows at the Muni, figure out how to do your show this way. And now it's a complete reversal. It's, who are you? What do you want to do? What's the magic you want to create? Great, let's figure that out for you.
Well, is that particular? I do want to say, because you are currently on Broadway producing The Last 5 Years, which is unless I'm mistaken, a two-person musical. You are also running this theater in St. Louis. A big Broadway theater is 1,500 seats. Your theater is 15,000. How do you? I'm sorry, 10,000. Oh, I'm sorry, 10,000 seats. Again, my notes are wrong. But could you even bring a show like that in there and make it work, or do you have to have a certain sense of scale in order for it even to work at the Muni?
Here's what works. If the ideas and the writing are strong and rich, it can play at 10,000 seats. That is the reality. Because we now have the scenic tools, the lighting tools. I can create such incredible intimacy on the stage. It's astonishing to watch 10,000 people focused on one person or two people. Now, we also have the gift, like when we do Beauty and the Beast or we do Fiddler or something, like I can give you an Anatevka on that stage. We're doing Evan Hansen this season. Now, for example, if those original creatives could have afforded to put a high school on that stage, they would have done it. I can do that. So it allows us with our creative teams to go into the show and go, what do we have? What can we do? And certainly the idea of excess, of extravagance, of, I'm going to say richness, was a big part of the idea of the musical for decades and decades. And most theaters, in fact, almost all theaters can't do that anymore. So when I did Beauty and the Beast and we get to be our guest, I mean, we ended up with 80 people on stage. And sort of this sense of power. And when you're doing that for 10,000 people and everyone's going out of their minds, I mean, it's really special. At the same time, we opened last season with Les Mis, and at the very end, on solo on a turntable, out comes Jean Valjean by himself with those two candlesticks. And for 8 minutes, it's just him and 10,000, and nobody's breathing. I get to play. It's sort of this musical theater playpen, but I can play all extremes now. I didn't have the intimacy until we did the big stage renovation in 2018. That was the game changer. Cool. That gave us everything we needed to then give both.
Now that you have the Tony, that can serve perhaps as some buffeting for you, because one of the shows that you are going to be doing in your upcoming season is La Cage, which you would not figure is any kind of controversial thing, like 40 years after it originally opened on Broadway. But now, I mean, as a city kind of a theater, considering the times that we're in, are you at all worried about doing a show about two gay men, one of whom is, cross-dressing in life and in art and stuff? Or, it's La Cage, it's a classic, nobody cares.
Without a doubt, the latter. Yeah, again, you get this audience and this community has been living decades and decades the life and scope and breadth of the American musical. Like, they give us the gift of their summers. So, they've seen it all.
Yeah, but you're not afraid of becoming the Kennedy Center of what's been going on there, or do you have an eye out? Yeah.
No, I'm not at all. Not at all. And let's be clear. What's happening at Kennedy Center has nothing to do with the audience.
No, I know that. No, but it's about funding. It's about the political. Are you free of that, or at least you hope so?
Yeah, we're free of that. I mean, yeah, no doubt.
Now, do you see other theater in St. Louis? Do you ever go to repertory theaters? Go to Fox?
go to the Rep, go to the Fox, go to stages. I try to as much as possible see the small local stuff, but I'm working constantly. But yeah, we're all colleagues and friends and talk all the time and support. And Shakespeare opens tonight. Shakespeare Festival opens their production of Hamlet tonight, so that's exciting.
So how would you say that theater has recovered there since the pandemic? Like, is it what it was? Is it better? Where is it at?
I would say the Muni, we've been fortunate because we did some right things, and our audience is very loyal. So we've been fine. The Rep has gone through some administrative changes and some artistic changes, so they're kind of refinding their footing. What also happened, and you know this, obviously, because you know your stuff, concurrent to the whole COVID and sort of the reckoning and sort of conversations, the other thing that happened was all of these theaters, the original founders retired or left. Like that, if you look what's going on in New York right now, those are all founders who are leaving, right? That's always a period of redefinition and arguably turmoil, no matter who you are. Because people, part of my responsibility at the Muni, for better or worse, people can't understand an institution, but they can understand it through a person. So your job is to serve as that door to them, to help them see the bigger thing. And certainly founders, because people get behind that initial energy, it's very exciting, very entrepreneurial. That's sort of there. Andre Bishop created Lincoln Center. He's now leaving. They have a wonderful replacement, but there's just always change. And that happened a lot in that too. So the Rep is still sort of finding that. Stages, the same thing. Jack Lane left and Michael Hamilton, bless his soul, passed away. So there's transition there, but they seem to be doing fine. And so, everyone's finding their footing.
So I guess you will get the chance on Tony night to give a bit of a speech. It might not make CBS, but maybe a piece of it will. What are you hoping to convey to not just your St. Louis audience, but to theater audiences around America?
Well, that's the billion-dollar questions, and I've written a whole bunch of notes, and I'm freaked out about it, and I'll be up there with, I'm the artistic director, executive producer, and sort of the way theater is the structure. The president and CEO is Kofi Coleman, and we'll be up there together, and we're sort of figuring out, I've given a Tony speech before. I was in shock the last one I gave because I was one of the lead producers of Fun Home, and we didn't expect to win. It was an incredible night. And it's a challenging moment, and I just want to make sure whatever we say is honest and comes from the heart and is smart, and so it's a little bit daunting, which is a long way of saying I don't have an answer to your question yet, but I got 2 weeks.
Just point everyone to your schedule over the past couple of years and to the shows you're doing, this coming season and the season after that. Just say, you want to know what we do? You want to know why we do it? Look at what we're doing.
But do you remember when the Supreme Court made that ruling about baseball and they said there is a special relationship here that sort of gave them those things? There is a special relationship between the Muni and the Broadway community. There's just this history and these roots. Right now, right away, I had associated to a spreadsheet. There is not a nominated show on Broadway this season, and at any level, that doesn't have somebody from the Muni either on stage or backstage or in the office.
Wow.
That's how it all is.
Well,
so,
yeah.
And I'm very proud of that because there is a focus and discipline here that we try to give to young people. We do it with love and great deals of humor. Laughter is very important to me. But you know what? We got 12 days to put on an amazing show, and we're going to put on an amazing show. And that's what we're going to do. And people walk away like, I can't believe we did that. And it gives them this profound sense of possibility that's very important to me. We can actually, if we communicate and connect with each other in the right way, we can do great things. We can. It's entirely possible.
Well, that is both magnificent and munificent. So much for humor there. Anyway, we've been talking with the delightful Mike Isaacson, artistic director and executive producer of the Muni in St. Louis. One more time, congratulations to you and St. Louis, and to the Muni itself on the Tony Award, and best wishes for many, many years to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was a delight, but great talking with you.
You too. Here on the Dave's Gone By Broadway special, live on this Saturday, June 7th, 2025. Oh my gosh. So let's see how we're going to work this. I appreciate that the person who we tried or wasn't there early in the program is trying to get on, but at the moment, we do have another live person talking with us. I'm Dave Lefkowitz, by the way, my darling and adorable wife.
Is it David late? I'll see him.
Yeah,
I can see him.
but Brian, if you can tell him, we'll get to him in about, where are my notes?
Okay, so I'm gonna say, we'll bring you in when.
Let me see if I can do him in about 10 minutes. I don't have my first page.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So, we can get to him in about 10 minutes. That'd be wonderful. But first, we have our longtime friend of the Daverhood. He is a critic for citytour.com and culturevulture.net, and he is the former editor-in-chief of theatermania.com, long-running website, kind of a website that when I was working at Playbill, they were our chief competitor.
Ooh.
But I'm beyond that, he's beyond that, and he's here once again in the Daverhood. He is Brian Scott Lipton. My glasses, thank you. Brian Scott Lipton, how are you, my friend?
Good morning, David. How are you? I'm doing very well.
Oh, that's great. You look great. So if you can just give yourself a little less headroom and a little more chin room. There we go. Anyway, so we're telling you about Brian Scott Lipton, and his category is going to be lead actress in a musical. I'm curious, why did you choose, because I allowed the critics to choose the categories they wanted. Why did you choose this one?
Because I wanted to give myself a challenge. I honestly think of all 26 categories, this is actually the hardest one to predict this year.
Ooh, yeah.
So I thought, let's go for broke. I mean, as you know, I've been on your show for many years. I predict for Gold Derby, and I've won that competition probably 10, 12 times. So I thought, what the heck? Let's try for the tough one.
No, wait a minute. What makes it? I have to ask. Why do you think that you have this knack for predicting what the Tony nominator or the voters will predict?
Honestly, because I am myself a Tony voter, what I finally learned is my taste or my preferences seem to be very representative of the Tony voting pack in general, which is about 800 voters. So with the rarest of exceptions, I've learned the safest way for me to predict and often to win is to literally just vote my ballot.
Interesting. All right. Because remember, Tony
doesn't always work, but it works more often than not.
Yeah, Tony voters are not all critics, by the way. They're producers,
It's a really good question because it's very hard to predict the opinions of 800 so people who I don't personally know. I mean, I may know some of them, but I don't know all of them. And Tony voters, as I think your audience would know, come from all walks of the theater, from actors to writers to designers to academics to behind the scenes people. So it's not a homogenous group in any way. And there are only 25 critics, frankly, who get to vote. So we're a very small part of this equation, which is why I don't tend to place a whole lot of faith on what critics say, because we're not, and especially in the cases, and we're about to discuss this, of the auto critics and the drama critics, and the drama desk, while I respect those organizations and I am still a member of one of them, they don't really contain Tony voters for the most part. So it's not really the best indicator of who's going to win.
All right. Well, let's see if you have the knack this year, and certainly with this difficult category.
Yes, this one's hard.
Actress in a musical. Let me read the nominees to you.
Okay.
They're Megan Hilty from Death Becomes Her, Audra McDonald as Gypsy Rose, not Gypsy Rose, as Mama Rose in Gypsy, right. Jasmine Amy Rogers, the lead character in Boop, Nicole Scherzinger in the revival of Sunset Boulevard, and Jennifer Samard. So we've got two Death Becomes Her folks in here. Brian, what are your thoughts?
Okay, my first thought is I think this is an amazing category of women. I think I would be content in my own way if any of them made it to the podium. These are 5 people who truly, truly deserve to be nominated. But that said, only one of them is going to take home the trophy. So in sort of backwards order, I think Megan and Jennifer are individually giving 2 of the finest true musical comedy performances I've ever seen. I mean, they're both hilariously funny, very physical, and of course, great singers. But if there had been some way for the Tonys to nominate them as a team, which is something that is never done, other than the one year all the Billy Elliots and for rotating, I think they'd have a really strong chance. But I don't see voters separating one for the other. This is sort of a tag team act. And so as good as they are, I kind of think they're out of the running. Going up the ladder, the next 3 ladies, any one of which could end up on the podium and any one of which truly deserves on the podium. Jasmine Amy Rogers made what I think may be one of the most sensational debuts on Broadway we have ever seen. Somebody who really came out of nowhere. I mean, when she was cast at Boop in Chicago, nobody had ever heard of her. It was basically an open call. And by the time she came to New York, most people still hadn't heard of her. And everybody that I know who has seen the show, critic to individual person, has been wowed by her true triple threat ability. Yeah. She does it all. She acts, she sings, she dances. She's beautiful. And she brings an extraordinary life to what is truly a cartoon character.
AKA Betty Boop.
Betty Boop, correct. Yeah. And the structure of the show is that, Betty Boop kind of comes alive and comes from the 1930s into the 2020s as a real living person. And it really is what one would consider a tour de force. And I think so much so that, yes, going back, she won both the Outer Critics Circle and she shared the drama desk, which are usually good enough indicators that I might say she's the front runner. But I'm going to say this is her first show, and the Tonys have a long history. I mean, there have been a few exceptions, but not many, of making you pay your dues. Rather than give it to you the first time out of the gate, especially if it's this kind of situation where I think Jasmine has a bright future. It's not like some special role, a kid role, or she's perfect for this show, but we're never going to see her again. I think we're going to see Jasmine for a long time. And I think this year she's just going to have to settle for a nomination.
Okay, so
Nicole Scherzinger. Yeah. Next on my list, playing Norma Desmond and Jamie Lloyd's very reinvented revival of Sunset Boulevard, is a slightly more complicated story. It is also it is her Broadway debut, but she has also been an international star, first as a member of the Pussycat Dolls and then through other appearances and on the British stage for like 20 years. So the Broadway debut label is a little bit misleading. What she does up there has really left viewers stunned. Her singing voice is just almost beyond description. It's so good. And it was certainly good enough that she won the Drama League Award, which is basically voted on by non-Tony voters. It's more of a normal regular people award. And again, I would say probably in any other year, this would be her award, and it could be. But I think the things against her, other than what the competition will get to, is
politics.
Her performance is stronger in its singing maybe than in its acting, although she is a good actress. But the production doesn't really give her the leeway to really act in a way that the original Sunset did. It's minimalist and there's just less there.
And didn't she piss some people off with wasn't there a controversy about her a few months ago?
She liked, and I don't know that this really will play into it. A number of months ago, she apparently liked some tweets that were interpreted as favoring President Trump, which will not make you particularly popular in this community.
Right.
She claims that that wasn't her intention. It had more to do with the Christianity aspect of the tweet, and that she is a devout Christian. I will also say that I have met her numerous times during the season, especially recently, and she has really been working the rooms and working hard to endear herself to Tony voters. And I have to say, I have not met a single person who has met her, and myself included, who has not found her to be gracious and humble, and thoroughly undiva-like. And I will also tell you, unbelievably beautiful. The first time I met her, I was actually, and I am a gay man, but nonetheless, I was speechless because I really didn't know what to say when somebody that extraordinary looking comes up to you. And so
I face the same thing every time I go outside.
Exactly, me too.
Women, they go running the other direction. So Brian, we just have a minute or two left. But so, are you holding like the best for?
Yeah,
best
I'm holding the winner for last, and I think the winner, believe it or not, with Tony number 7 on her 11th nomination, will be Audra McDonald.
Yeah,
and again, this is no slam dunk. First of all, it's not true Audra wins every time. As I said, she's had 11 nominations, but only 7 wins. So she does occasionally lose Tony. And there has been some controversy about her performance, especially vocally. She does use her soprano head voice quite a lot. And for some people, that has been a problem, who expect every gypsy, or every rose to be more precise, to sound like Ethel Merman. But I think there are 3 things in her favor. One, even those who detract it kind of admit that it's the best acted gypsy they've ever seen. I mean, Audra is a consummate actress, and she has created her own spin on this iconic character, especially as a Black woman. And she has taken this as an acting role to new heights. I think there's going to be some bonus points and bonus votes for being a Black woman taking on this iconic white written role and making it her own and making it relevant. And yes, again, I don't know how much off the cuff controversies contribute, but as we all know, there has been some trash talking lately by Patti LuPone, who later, apologized. But it may have actually tipped the scales a little bit more in Audra's favor, because now people want to see her rewarded. And I also think, lastly, this gypsy has only received 5 Tony nominations. And I honestly think of those 5, regardless of how merited they all are, Audra is their best and probably only chance to take home the win. I am really pretty sure they will lose the revival Tony to Sunset. And the other actors, as good as they are going to lose to different actors. And so if the Tony voters want to recognize this really extraordinary landmark production, I mean, I don't think till you see it, you can really understand the impact of turning Gypsy into the story of a striving African-American woman trying to make her kids, and by extension herself, successful in a white-dominated world. I think this will be the Tony voters' chance to reward the revival, and I don't think it can go unrewarded. So for that reason, I'm placing her at the top of the list, but it's truly anybody's game.
Well, we have been rewarded by being joined once again by Brian Scott Lipton. Make sure to read his reviews at citytour.com.
Thank you.
Culturevulture.net also, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So thank you so much, Brian. Have a great time watching the Tonys tomorrow, and have a fabulous season coming up. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Dave.
Have a great one. Bye-bye now. Okay. Brian Scott Lipton with us in the Daverhood. And now we have, I've got my other copy. I couldn't find it before. Well, I've got David Finkle waiting in the room, patiently out for us to get to another category, actor in a musical.
The Finkle salsa.
No relation to Fivish. I think it's spelled even differently. But we've got him. He came. Hooray. So we just need him to log in and to unmute. David Finkle, by the way, is a critic for New York Stage Review. New York Stage Review. There we go. I haven't seen him in a couple of years. Looking good, except let's get more of your chin and less of your wall. There we go. Are you wearing a shirt?
Yeah.
Am I seeing your naked shoulders, David? It's hard to tell.
It's a low cut shirt, but
Okay. Anyway, welcome back. Glad you could make it into the Daverhood. How you been? Did you love this season as a lot of our other critics have overall?
it was a very commercially successful season, but I can't say I loved it. I saw many things that I did love, but I'm rather, well, we won't get into it. I'll just say in one
Oh.
sentence, I'm somewhat discouraged by the direction in which productions are going. I think we've had a hard time, and the way people are certainly, and we're going to be discussing musicals. I have a great feeling about about what's happening with the writing of musicals.
Well, since you brought it up, quickly share. What's your problem?
My problem is that they're not being written by the standards that we used to have. That we had. There used to be standards on craftsmanship, which we're losing, and what we're losing it to is amplification and shows that are just too loud. And every show these days, or almost every show, has to be belted. The singing has to be belted, and I find it hard, in a way, hard to listen to.
Yeah, I've got to say, even when I was watching Pirates of Penzance music, it was an old musical that they've redone. I'm like, why they can pop this down just a little bit? Come on, man! It was operetta 100 and something years ago. But what about Broadway in general? You said also you had some other issues with the season.
I well, I just think that crafts
Manship, yeah.
craftsmanship or craftswomanship uh, is is having a tough time. I think that I don't know whether anybody's interested. Well, some people are interested in writing the well-made play still, but I think that Purpose is a good play for at least 75% of the time, 80% of the time, and will undoubtedly win the best as best musical would probably be Happy
Maybe happy ending.
Happy Ending, and which I find a very nice musical, but rather mild. Uh, I'm more in the area of well, I think my Tony vote went for Operation Mincemeat.
Oh, interesting. Okay. But your category that we're going to be talking about is, with David Finkle here, is actor in a musical. So let me read them out, and then you can give your thoughts on this particular category. The nominees are Darren Criss for Maybe Happy Ending. We have Andrew Durand for Dead Outlaw, Tom Francis in Sunset Boulevard, Jonathan Graff starring as Bobby Darin in Just in Time, James Monroe Iglehart playing Louis Armstrong in A Wonderful World, and Jeremy Jordan as the lead character in Floyd Collins. David Finkle, your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I expect that Jonathan Groff will win and will win his second Tony in a row, which is quite an achievement. It's a remarkable performance. He's in a musical called Just in Time, which is billed as the story of Bobby Darin, which it is in some small part. Uh, Bobby Darin, for those who don't know, and he died when he was 37, which was longer than he expected to live, I think. He expected to live at 62. They thought that he would die before he was, or no later than 16. So when he went into show business, he made it quite clear that he wanted to be a legend by the time he was 25.
Don't we all? Yeah.
And well, you did, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't expect ever to be a legend, and happy not to be. But Bobby Darin did become extremely successful by the time he was 25. And I did interview him once, with and without with Sandra Dee. She greeted us when another editor and I did a double interview with him, and she went into the bedroom after she greeted us very nicely, and he sat and we interviewed him wearing a silk bathrobe.
Okay. Well, you were wearing it, or he was wearing it? So, no, just kidding.
No, I was.
So, having met Bobby Darin, was Jonathan Groff? Did he remind you of Bobby Darin?
He did remind me of Bobby Darin, and in the show he makes it quite clear that as he comes out and introduces himself, he says, I'm Jonathan Groff, and I'm going to be telling you about Bobby Darin." And he said we were very much alike in one very important way, which is that we both loved performing more than anything else. And this musical that was worked on by Jonathan Groff with Ted Chapin for 7 years, since they 7 years ago, they did something I didn't see based on Bobby Darin. And then they turned it into what is really a big music hall presentation of Bobby Darin. But what it really is a showcase for Jonathan Groff's abilities, because Bobby Darin had a bad heart, which is why he died when he was 37. He knew it from childhood. And so if you go on YouTube and look for Bobby Darin, and you find him very easily, and you watch him perform, he was always very contained in the way but was very jazzy, very lounge, kind of a lounge lizard look.
Because he was holding back. He didn't want to overexert himself.
He did not want to overexert himself because of the way he felt about his heart.
Sure.
He shouldn't. In the show, there are several numbers in which Jonathan Groff exerts himself. Numbers I don't think Bobby Darin ever would have allowed. And I found that annoyed me, because what it did was it betrayed Bobby Darin. And yet he's giving such a wonderful performance, dancing up a slope, which Bobby Darin, when he was dancing, when he was moving, he wasn't really doing steps. I don't think he ever had. I didn't look into this. I don't know whether he ever had a choreographer.
Well, probably not back then. But they could probably fix it in the show if after a big number where he exerts himself, he just comes off going like, I'm okay, and then it would work. Because they explain it. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't do that.
Let me ask you, but before, because we're spending a lot of time right now on just the Bobby Darin show, just in time. Any thoughts on any of the other Best Actor in a Musical nominees?
I'm really fond of Andrew Durand in Dead Outlaw, which all of us critics saw it off Broadway last year. And not only that, we went in not knowing what to expect and saw this marvelous satirical musical about the Old West, and this corpse that had been supposedly he was a thug. And he died ignominiously, and yet he was when they found his corpse, they built him into this great Western marauder, and the musical we all thought it should move. When I saw it on Broadway, which of course I had to as a Tony voter, I was surprised to see that it kind of had lost something in the move, and I don't know what it was, but I think a lot of us were surprised that it wasn't quite what we've seen off Broadway, but I still recommend it. I think it's a marvelous. It's very David Yazbek and Cromer and David Cromer, and it is David, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they've done
It's Tamar Moses also. She worked, or no, Eric De La Pena is the other person on that show. What about one more from David Finkle of the actors in a musical? You've got James Monroe Iglehart, Darren Criss.
He was good. Darren Criss is very good. I'm not the fan of the huge fan of maybe Happy Ending that everybody else is, and it will probably be the musical of the year. I find it very, very entertaining, but on the mild side.
Right, you said, yeah. I agree. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mentioned earlier in the program that I really liked it while I was watching it, but it didn't stay with me. It didn't stick to my ribs in a way that I hoped or thought that it would or move me, because it was a touching show. And just kind of like, oh, I liked it, you know.
Well, when you said it didn't move me, I'll issue a challenge to all of your listeners. Can you name a single song from a Broadway musical that you want to hear again and again and again? You don't get those songs from Broadway musicals anymore. People just don't write scores that, as they did. Probably the last great musical was, well, maybe Rent. But
What? No, come on.
Light in the Piazza, I would say.
So you're an Adam Geggel fan. I could live without Geggel, so it doesn't really do it for me.
I think I'm a fan of his because he does it for me. But Floyd Collins is not a musical I ever was really wild about, crazy about, although it's often crazy. But for me, if there was only one song, the final song, How Glory Goes, in Floyd Collins, I'd still think it was a wonderful musical. With his score, watching a man sit on a slab for 90% of a show to me isn't thrilling.
Well, whether or I don't even know how to segue out of that, but we have been talking with David Finkle. Remember that you can read his reviews at his website. It's New York Stage Review. Look for David Finkle there. And we thank you once again for joining us in the Daverhood for our very, very special Tony and Broadway celebration. David, I wish you a very, very happy.
Always a pleasure, Dave. Always a pleasure, Dave.
You too. And thank you so much for being with us.
Year, maybe. Bye.
Bye now. David Finkle, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, it is almost 10:30 in the a.m. of the morning Eastern Time here in the Daverhood. We're technically, the quiz is coming up momentarily. We're waiting for one more person to join us in the Quizzerhood, because we have our Tony Trivia show. Woo, well, our Tony Trivia segment on Dave's Gone By. By the way, that is my wife in the background doing the noises and the sound effects and the drumming. Oh, couldn't do this without her. And remember, she also did the set design and helped me with the costume design of this episode of the program. She suggested the lighting design as well. You're just nominating all these different categories.
None of them.
Featured helper in a program. Do we have? Oh, all our guests.
Oh, okay.
Are ready for our trivia program, and I'm going to need your help too, because the bell, and we're going to give you this in a minute. I'll do the bell. I need to show this first.
Okay.
So, okay, it's almost 10:30. We're watching the 986th episode of Dave's.
Since it's a fancy event, use this one.
Ooh. It's like John Proctor's Schools in Session. So, I'm Dave Lefkowitz. Don't go away. We have our trivia game. We also have more guests weighing in on the Broadway season. That's right. This will be the reward. The trivia reward. That's what our budget allows. And we have Rabbi Sol Solomon coming up later with his Rabbinical Reflection. And also we have, let's bring it down for a moment, our In Memoriam segment of people we lost in the day. But I got water. But thank you for offering. So much left to do on this episode. Let's bring in our players of our trivia game. So we got them coming in. Our guests are going to be, and let me actually get my paperwork ready for Tony Trivia. Eva Heinemann going to be joining us, the producer and host of the long-running show High Drama on both Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and also you can watch her stuff on YouTube. We have Robert Viagas, former managing editor of this website I've never heard of. It's Playboy.com. Playboy. No, it's Playbill.com, but he's also the author of Good Morning Olive, about ghosts in the theater, and Right This Way, a history, oh, there we go, a history, I'll say it slowly, a history of the audience in theater. Yes, Robert, looking good, Robert. You're just such a handsome dude. And then we also have another handsome dude, David Sheward. He is the theater critic for TOTALTHEATER.com, CulturalDaily.com, and TheaterLife.com. And he also has the blog, The David Desk. How are you all doing? Oh, Robert, you need to unmute. How are you all doing?
Fine.
Thank you.
I'm doing fine.
Tired. We're theater people. We're not morning people.
Oh, well, Eva, you look great too. And by the way, thank you for joining us on Shabbos. This is it's very special for me that you will do that. You will break every law of the 613 laws in the Bible. You're breaking 28 of them just to be here. So I appreciate that.
Although I'm a Shagitz,
Yes.
I'm married to a Jewish woman, and I belong to a temple, and so I was Shabbos goy for the entire temple. So if there's anything you need me to do, you have a Shabbos goy right here.
Turn the yeah, right. That's exactly it, David. He if somebody needs any work done or physical stuff done, a light switch, turn on the oven to heat up the goodies after the ceremony and stuff. Yeah, Robert does that. So, Robert, you get 5 extra points in the quiz just for being this.
I haven't done anything yet, though.
So, what?
I haven't done anything yet.
He's having a mug. He's having a mug of tea, coffee. What is that, David?
Chewing something.
Oh, tea. It's just tea.
Tea. He's like you. He drinks tea. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us on this Tony broadcast. Before we even get to anything, real quick, which show for each of you was your favorite on or off Broadway of the whole season? We'll start with Eva. Ladies first. I know that's sexist.
No pressure.
Yeah, Eva.
Oh, well, with Broadway, I mean, it's just like Operation Mincemeat, maybe Happy Ending, and a picture of Dorian Gray. And A Dead Outlaw is there from last year. But oh my gosh.
Okay. David Sheward, we're going alphabetically now. Yeah.
Oh, let me think a minute. I really liked, I'm going to pick something weird that not everybody picks. Off-Broadway, I really liked a play called The Antiquities by Jordan Harrison, which was at Playwrights Horizons, which was really different and weird and strange, and it was about artificial intelligence taking over and destroying the world. But it was fascinating. And on Broadway, I liked a lot. But I'm really going to be corny and say I really like Stranger Things because it was so amazing, and I'm shocked that Stephen Daldry was not nominated for direction, and Justin Martin, who was the co-director.
Now, Robert Viagas, you're a Tony voter, I think, still, right? You're on the.
Yes, I am.
No, it was for 26 years.
Yeah,
but
I'm a Tony voter. Yeah.
Oh, David Sheward is.
I'm still a Tony voter. Yeah.
Well, yay, Robert. Though, what was your favorite on or off Broadway of this season? Because you still go to everything. Yeah.
I still do, and I have to say I'm going to go a little corny. Also, I really liked Smash. I liked all the inside theater jokes. I'm sorry, they cracked the joke about "Merrily We Roll Along," and I'm sure that for the general public that just goes. But I laughed my head off. I also really liked maybe Happy Ending. I thought that was a lovely show. And among plays, I liked Eureka Day. I thought Eureka Day. Really, there's a lot of things that they're now doing in the dramas that are really grappling with the real world, the world that we live in, and I think they did a great job with that. So I'm a little at odds with the others, but those are the shows that I really enjoyed. Well, Smash wasn't even nominated for a Tony, so.
Eureka Day is nominated for Revival.
Yes,
it was an off-Broadway show a couple of years ago. They brought up for Revival. I don't know if it's going to win for Revival, but when I hear Robert talk about that, he was one of one of the people who helped shape the internet by being at playbill.com fairly early in the, like, by now, was it 94?
Playbill.com. I founded Playbill.com because when I was a teenager, I didn't understand why they didn't put theater news on the front page of the newspaper every day. And I decided that someday I'd like to start a newspaper that will put theater on the front page every friggin' day.
Mhm.
And the internet finally gave me an opportunity to do that.
And the idea of Eureka Day is the funniest scene, for me, the best scene in the show, has to do with the internet of social media and people posting and zooming and, you know, things going crazy. It's a hysterical scene. So I think it kind of comes home for you, Robert, as being one of the, as you said, the founder of Playbill.com. Anyway, I am the founder of this ridiculous quiz that we're going to do, which is a Tony-related trivia quiz. You're all... All our guests, Robert and Eva and David, are competing against each other. So the first thing I'm going to, how am I going to do this? It's 5 rounds of 3 questions per round. And we do have a couple of tiebreaker questions in case all of you get everything, which is very possible.
They're all theater people, yeah.
Now, to start the game, I'm going to ask again.
Tell them David is the GOAT. He's the greatest of all times in the game.
When we were doing our Today Yesterday quiz, David Sheward, kind of like 80% of the time he was, but this is not the Today Yesterday. It's a little different. It's Tony Trivia.
David is a god, and we all have to acknowledge that.
We do. As a Shabbos goy, he is the person that the Jews pray to when you turn the lights on. But I'm going to ask Eva.
Temple Bethel.
Eva, could you pick a number from 1 to 6, please?
5.
5. And then alphabetically. David, what number would you choose?
3.
David, 3. And Robert?
1.
Robert, 1. I'm going to ask my darling and adorable wife to toss this cube, which came up at 2. So hold on. This takes more time than the whole rest of the quiz. 3. David Sheward, you get to choose. Do you want to be first, second, or third?
Oh, I'll go first. Why not?
Wow. All right. Could you kindly roll again? And we have a 4. Okay, could you roll again, please? 3 again. Could you roll again, please? 3 again. Could you roll again, please? 4. This will go on a while. 6. No, keep going. Leslie, we're going to 6. Oh, we have a 1. 1. Robert, do you want to be second or third?
I'll be third.
Third. So Eva, you get to. That's the order we're going to go in. It's going to be David, Eva, and then Robert in our round-to-round thing. So David Sheward.
Huh?
Each question is.
Eva, you look great.
Yeah, that should look good. I love that dress.
I love that dress too.
I should wear that dress. I think I would love it. Each question is worth 2 points. If you get the question, you get the 2 points. If you miss the question, the next contestant gets to try and answer it for the points. You don't lose any points if you get anything wrong. But we only have 2 shots. If the second person gets the question wrong, it's a dead question, and then we move on. Are you all ready for the trivia quiz? Here we go. David Sheward.
Yes.
On March 25th, 1973, the 27th Tonys were held at Broadway's Imperial Theater. Among the best musical nominees was this tuner by Peter Stone, Julie Stein, and Bob Merrill, adapted from a Billy Wilder movie comedy. Name the show.
Sugar.
Say that again.
Sugar.
Oh, what a sweet answer that is. That's 2 points for David Sheward. And of course, and we all know what Sugar. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to do the. There we go. And everybody together, what was Sugar based on?
Something Like It Hot.
Something Like It Hot, which ended up being its own show. Robert, you were going to say?
I was going to sing, doing it for sugar. I'm only doing it for sugar. I get no points for that. And in fact, I lose some points for my voice.
Well, but David Sheward does get 2 points to start us off. Well done. That's going to be essentially the level of difficulty. For you guys, some of these are like no-brainers. We got people watching who don't know theater who'll be like, ah. And in fact, I wouldn't know most of these anyway. Our next question, though, goes to Eva Heinemann, host of High Drama. You ready, Eva?
Probably not, but go ahead.
Well, at the sorry.
I'm telling you, get ready, because I'm not going to get it right. I'm very bad.
Maybe.
Never know.
At the 17th Tony Awards in 1963, the award for Best Stage Technician went to Solly Pernick. That's not the end. I'm not going to ask that. The Best Stage Technician went to Solly Pernick, who worked on this Irving Berlin musical, all about a politician with both family problems and Cold War problems. Eva, name that tuner.
Oh gosh. Oh, I just see a scene from it. I can't. Is it of the I Sing?
Is that your final answer, Eva Heinemann? I'm afraid it is not of the I Sing. So, Eva, that is not the correct answer. Don't say it, however. Robert now gets a chance to steal the question and gets the points. I'll read a part of it again. So, Best Stage Technician Solly Pernick worked on this 1963 Irving Berlin musical about a politician with both family problems and Cold War problems. Name that tuner.
Mr. President. And it had Irving Berlin's rock song in it. He wrote a rock. He wrote from the turn of the 20th century, and he even wrote a rock song in that, the Washington Twist.
Is it any good? I haven't heard that cast album. So, oh no.
I do know, Anita Gillette had a song called "She Played the President's Daughter," and she had a song called "The Secret Service Makes Me Nervous."
Yes.
Well, that's very Berlin. That's so Berlin. So
and more today than ever.
Yeah. Anyway, we have a tie game so far between David Sheward and Robert Viagas with 2 points each. Eva, so many more questions to go. But now we go directly to Robert because you stole the last question, but you do get the next question officially on our feed. So here we go.
This is your chance to take it back. Okay, when I blow it, you get to.
Actually, when you blow it, David gets the next.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But here we go. Robert
Yes.
Viagas, Tony Award ceremony number 37 was held June 5th, 1983 at the Gershwin Theater. It was a big night for Cats and for this year's Lifetime Achievement winner Harvey Fierstein and his Best Play winning Torch Song Trilogy. I think you hit the wrong... What? Oh, Cats. Okay, I get it. Cats.
Harvey
Other play...
not that bad.
We don't have a... Here's the question, though. Torch Song Trilogy won, but other play nominees that night included Night Mother and David Hare's Plenty, as well as Angels Fall, a transfer from off-Broadway Circle Repertory Theater written by this 3-time Tony nominee. Name that playwright.
All right. I know the playwright. I've been to his house, and I'm having a senior moment, which is not good for this. He wrote Hotel Baltimore. He wrote so many shows. All right, I'm going to have to pass because it's just not coming out of my head.
You know who it is, but
I'm going
the
to say
name
Wilson, but that's not his name.
Well, I'm sorry. What did you say?
I'm going to say Wilson, but that's not who it is.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, it's going to be my final answer, and I'm probably going to be wrong.
I think we need the first name because there is another.
Yes, it's not August Wilson.
Okay.
Right. Okay. But the thing is, Robert, I can give you 1 out of 2 points because you are partially correct.
Oh, okay.
So Robert gets 1 point for that. However, David Sheward gets to do the other, the rest, which is
Lanford Wilson.
Lanford Wilson.
Lanford Wilson. David Sheward gets a point.
That's the part I remember.
But now, Robert, I have to ask you. And you were in his house. What were you doing in his house?
I had written a extremely positive review of a show of his that was done at the White Barn Theater in Connecticut, and he called me up and he said, "I'd like you to come over." He was translating a play at that time, and I'm blanking on what the play was, but he had gotten all the translations of it. It was a Russian play. He'd gotten all the translations, and I had a copy of Stark Young's translation of this play. He said he hadn't been able to find it. He said, "Bring it when you come." And so I spent the day there, and it was very
Wow, how nice.
Lanford, by the way, He said, "Call me Lanford," and
you've never forgotten it,
No.
except right 2 minutes ago. Anyway, so here's where we stand. We still have a tie game now. We have a tie.
Three Sisters was the play that he was translating, and Stark. Yeah, he did not have Stark Young's translation. He wanted to see all the translations.
Being in the right place at the right time.
I still own Stark Young's translation. So anyway.
So thank you. Yeah, thank you for the story, Robert Viagas. We have awarded you that 1 point for getting the name partially right, which ties you with David Sheward at 3 each in our trivia game. We move on to round 2 with our next question, which goes directly now to David Sheward. So, David, you ready?
Yes.
At the 47th Tony Awards, the Regional Theater Tony went to this West Coast theater located on the campus of the University of California, San Diego, and currently headed by Christopher Ashley. Name that theater.
San Diego, the Old Globe?
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
No, that is not correct. It is not the Old Globe Theater. So, the question now goes directly to Eva Heinemann, who can get 2 points. I'll read it again. Regional Theater Tony at the 47th Tony Awards went to this West Coast theater located on the campus of the University of California, San Diego, and currently headed by Christopher Ashley. Name that theater.
I have no idea. I'm terrible at these sort of things. All I could think of it, and no, it's wrong. It's Berkeley.
I didn't hear it.
Berkeley Rep.
Oh, Berkeley Rep. Okay. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I just can't think.
No, sorry. We have this screaming possum to say. I'm afraid that question is off the charts now. The answer is La Jolla Playhouse.
I didn't get a chance. I was going to say La Jolla.
I'm sorry. I told you the question dies after 2.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. So we got a mix on that one.
Drove up and down the highway there looking because they were told the name was written and they were looking for La Jolla, and they couldn't find La Jolla because they're from the East Coast.
Well, they had a Holly La Jolla Christmas, I'll tell you that. But that's terrible. Our next question goes directly to Eva Heinemann, though. So, Eva, you're still down by 3, but if you get this, you get 2 points. Here we go. It is 1978, and the combined age of the Tony-winning Best Actor and Actress in a Play for this year is 132. That is because the actress is 69-year-old Jessica Tandy in The Gin Game. The actor is a 63-year-old veteran who later on would co-star in the aforementioned Angels Fall, also a revival of The Iceman Cometh, and the original Prelude to a Kiss. Name that geezer.
Could you do the beginning of the question again?
Sure.
That's another game show. Name that geezer.
It's on the old game show. It's 1978. So, Best Actor and Actress in a Play. Okay.
Over your question.
Jessica Tandy is one of them. The other is a 63-year-old actor, acting veteran who later on, after that, would co-star in Angels Fall, a revival of Iceman Cometh, and the original Prelude to a Kiss. Name this actor.
Could you say the year? I did not hear the...
Well, it actually doesn't. Well, 1978.
All right.
I'm not mentioning the... Well, I can't say that, but okay.
Yeah, that would be a giveaway.
Oh, my God, and I love that. I love that play. I mean, Craig Lucas, it was a circle, but I know everything about it, but it's not coming in my head. And I know it's not, geez. Is he 63 now?
No, he was 63 in 1978.
Oh, okay. I'm wrong. I'm just going to make up names. I'm going to give 0. I'm going for 0 for this whole thing. I'm going to say Austin Pendleton, which is ridiculous.
Oh, we got to mention Austin Pendleton. Yes. We try and have an Austin Pendleton alert in every show. I actually saw him at the theater when I was in New York a week ago. But anyway, even no. So this now goes to Robert Viagas. You look like you're poised to steal by saying who is the geezer that we're talking about.
Barnard Hughes?
Say it again.
Barnard Hughes?
And the answer to that is da. Yes, that was actually the show he was in 1978. The Barnard Hughes is the correct answer. Robert Viagas gets 2 more points to take the lead. Yes,
Shortest title of any show that won a Tony Award.
Oh, that makes Are there any shorter titles of any shows that ran on Broadway? 2 letters or 1 letter? I don't know.
What about people?
Probably.
Letter?
Well, Avenue Q was not. I don't
Ask
know.
what the longest title was of a show that won the Tony Award.
Oh, Dad, Poor Dad, or what was it?
The persecution
and assassination of Marauders under the inmates of Carrington under the direction of the Marquis de Sade.
There we go. Pater Weiss's delightful show. Actually, anyway, they should revive that. We have one more question in this second round, and it goes now directly to Robert Viagas, who is already in the
Lanford. No.
That's the bonus.
Now, my wife will like this question because I'm mentioning her
Every
favorite person.
question except the one you asked me.
Here we go.
Try again.
My right Assad, and this is my left Assad.
Oh.
Talk about a persecution complex. All right, here we go.
Peabody.
Robert, in 1968, Angela Lansbury and Peter Ustinov hosted the 22nd Tony Awards. Colleen Dewhurst, who a few years later would have her greatest role in a revival of A Moon for the Misbegotten, is here nominated for a different O'Neill play. It's one that O'Neill never finished and never wanted produced, and it concerns a man trisected among his wife, his mother, and capitalism. Name that drama.
Karl Marx. Das Kapital.
Is it? Touch of the Poet.
Is it Touch of? Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Well, Robert Viagas taking some poetic license there, but I'm afraid that is not correct, Robert. I'm so sorry. You don't get the 2 points. David is looking like he's on the catbird seat. So this was 1968. Colleen Dewhurst was in an O'Neill play, but not A Touch of the Poet. And it wasn't her later triumph in A Moon for the Misbegotten. What? She's nominated for this O'Neill play. David, do you know it?
Yes. It is the sequel to A Touch of the Poet, More Stately Mansions.
More Stately Mansions. It is well stated in a stately way, David Sheward, which means you have now tied Robert Viagas. We have a tie game. Woo! Don't know why I did that.
I'm a mere mortal.
And David is the GOAT. It's no question. We move on to round. Oh, I know. Well, then where does Eva fall? Eva
is the Mickey character.
Mickey Sudo. That's right. She's our Mickey Sudo in our July 4th Tony Trivia hot dog eating extravaganza.
Did you show them the prize? Show them the prize.
Oh, here's her prize. David, do you want to say something?
Me?
Yeah, you were waving your pencil.
I wanted to tell something related to that Tony Award thing, which is now, can I use the C word here? It begins with a C and it's something.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, at Colleen Dewhurst's memorial service.
Oh, yes.
Maureen Stapleton was speaking, and there was Helen Hayes and Zoe Caldwell and all that. And she told the story when both she and Colleen Dewhurst were nominated for the Tony, and they thought one of them, they were in a limo headed towards the Tonys, and they were talking about, if I win, I'm going to say this, and if you win, I'm going to say this. Maureen Stapleton was nominated for Plaza Suite. Dewhurst was nominated for More Stately Mansions. They were both sure they were going to win. And then Maureen Stapleton says at this funeral, and she points to Zoe Caldwell and says, and this Australian cunt won.
Yes! Wow. Yeah, and I've used that phrase so many times in my life. And
Helen Hayes is going, what did Maureen say? What'd she say?
And she asked Isabel Stevenson, who's... Anyway, let's move on to... by the way, who that was David Sheward. So David gets...
Now it's my turn. I haven't had the question yet.
He did the catch-up.
Right. Well, that was the end of round two.
That was right. That was I said.
I
more
got it
than-
wrong. He got it
Now,
wrong.
now
It's
it's
in a
me.
catch-up.
Now it's-
Yeah, the question starts with David in round three. But I forgot to give you your extra 2 points there because you are
Okay.
in the lead, unless I'm greatly mistaken, which you you have 7 points. So go for it, Dave. Now,
Okay.
David Sheward, this question is for you.
I'm ready.
At the 42nd Tony Awards held June 5th, 1988 at the Minskoff, Barry Harmon and Keith Herman snag a Tony nomination for this show, which brackets two essentially unrelated one-act musicals. Act 1 is set in 19th century Vienna, Act 2 in the Hamptons. Both acts star Alison Fraser and Scott Bakula. Do I even have to finish the question? Name that show, David Sheward.
Romance.
Yes, it is Romance. Good job, David. David Sheward, not quite running away with the game yet, but it's getting scary. He's got 9 points already. Or is it 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 points? Robert Viagas has 5. Eva, you have a chance now to get on the board. Are you ready, Eva?
I'm going to be Paul Lynde and just get them all.
Just say funny stuff. Be Charlie Weaver. Here we go.
Yes.
The year April 13th, 1958, the Waldorf Astoria hosted the 12th Tonys. Miss Helen Hayes took acting honors for Time Remembered, beating out the likes of Jo Van Fleet, Mary Urey, and this Oscar-winning English actress nominated for originating the role of Josie Hogan in Eugene O'Neill's A Moon for the Misbegotten. Name her.
The only English actress I can think of at the moment is Rosemary Harris. So I'm going to go with Rosemary Harris and give it to Robert. Rosemary's
not the right answer. I'm sorry. So, Robert, you do have a chance to steal this question. Who was the Tony nominee that
Who are the other
year?
nominees?
Oh,
I don't
the other,
off the top of my head.
it was Jo Van Fleet, Mary Urey, Helen Hayes won. You're looking for the other nominee who originated Josie Hogan in A Moon for the Misbegotten.
I'm going to pass. I do not know the answer. I'm not going to pretend.
Ooh.
Okay. The
Behind
question
Dave.
is dead.
And there
But-
was no points.
Um,
Wendy Hiller.
That is correct. David Sheward. The actress is Wendy Hiller, probably best known for appearing in Pygmalion in the film version before everybody knew My Fair Lady.
And she won her Oscar for Separate Tables.
There we go. Yeah. Let's just make this a David Sheward. No, Robert, you're up there, man. You're up there. And Eva, you still can get on the board. We have more questions. So to finish the third, Eva.
Rosemary Harris's name does begin with an H. So I got that part right.
Yes, you did.
We can give Eva 1/8 of a point for getting the letter right. No. The last question in the round goes directly to Robert. So Robert, you can build up your points here in second place. Last year's Tony Awards saw a Best Direction nomination for Broadway newcomer Whitney White. She got the nod for staging this play all about West African immigrants in a Harlem salon. Name that comedy.
It was Jaja's. I was going to say hair salon, but that's part of the question.
Or I need a
Yes, I know.
okay.
I think I'm going to have to stay at 5. It's
Well-
Jaja something or other.
And the answer is partially, hold on, is partially because I can give Robert 1 point there.
I don't know.
Which is cool. So we move though. Eva Heinemann, do you know? Wait, what? Sorry.
Was that way to me?
Does it? I'm sorry, David. You're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
know this one.
It figures. Yeah.
Jaja, Jaja, however you want to pronounce it. Jaja's African hair braiding.
There we go.
By Jocelyn Bio. Correct. David Sheward gets and deserves. I'm sorry, I skipped the patterning. I got wrong here, but David Sheward with 1 more point at 10. Robert Viagas picking up a point also. So Robert has 6. So 10-6, Eva still hoping to get on the board as we move to our penultimate round in the trivia pro.
Show them the prize, honey. Show them the prize.
Oh, yeah, the medal, yes.
Yeah. Exciting, huh?
We call it the plastic. It's really not.
Did you get that from a cruise ship or something?
What does it say? It actually says something on here. What does it say? It says made in China.
Oh, did you pay the tariff on that?
You paid the tariff, right?
Oh, yeah, it's good. It's the real thing. It's good. By the way, you're watching the Dave's Gone By Broadway special live on this Saturday, June 7th, 2025, our 986th episode of the program. It's 11 o'clock Eastern Time. I forgot my little happy hunting horn. We're in the fourth round of our trivia quiz featuring Eva Heinemann, David Sheward, and Robert Viagas. So we start again with David Sheward, who can build on his lead with this question. Well, we just talked about Whitney White. Speaking of women named White, choreographer Ona White was nominated in 1968 for her work on this film-based musical about a free-spirited hooker who was played on film and on stage by Melina Mercouri. Name that show.
Oh, well, the movie was never on a Sunday, but the musical was Ilya Darling.
Is that your final answer? Yeah. It's the David Sheward Show, ladies and gentlemen. 2 more points. I'm thrilled that you're getting this. I just want you to get a tight game. But hey, the game's not over.
Oh, I also want back when we were on Angels Fall, the Lanford Wilson play. That was the first show I ever saw when I moved to New York in 1980.
Wow! Oh my gosh! Wait, where were you before New York?
Philadelphia.
Oh, cool.
I went to college in Philadelphia, and then when I graduated, I moved here. And that was either the first or the second. Plenty was at the Public, and they both, and Angels Fall was at the Old Circle Rep, which is now a pizza restaurant or something.
Yeah. Way to bring us down, David. Yeah, but no.
They both moved to Broadway.
Yeah. So, David Sheward, by the way, getting Ilya Darling, 2 points for David. Congratulations on that. And you're right, it was based on the 1960 Jules Dassin movie, Never on Sunday. And I saw some nods from you guys, too. So, let's see, though. Our next contestant is Eva Heinemann. Eva can go for 2 points here. I'm sorry, you seem to be getting some of the toughies here. Here's a multiple choice for you. At the 11th Tony Awards in 1957, Rex Harrison won leading actor in a musical for My Fair Lady. He had 2 other competitors. Which of these was not one of the other nominees? Okay, it's a multiple choice. Was not one of the other nominees. Don Amici in Goldilocks, Robert Weedy in The Most Happy Fella, Fernando Lamas in Happy Hunting.
Do you give a booby prize? I'm the only one here with boobies.
So much for Carey Purcell's feminism chat. Okay, no, but you have a shot. You have a 1 out of 3 shot, no matter what.
I'm going to say Fernando Lamas because Happy Hunting didn't do very well there. So,
is that your final answer?
Appreciate it. So I'm going to go. Yeah, what the heck.
I'm sorry, Eva. That's just, you got hunted down and shot down on that one. So the question goes directly to Robert Viagas, who was the other nominee in the year that Rex Harrison won leading.
The scream is at the Merman.
It's a belty kind of a scream. So, Robert, the year in 1957 that Rex Harrison won for My Fair Lady had 2 other nominees. Were they Don Amici in Goldilocks or Robert Weedy in Most Happy Fella?
Amici.
Is that your final answer?
My final answer.
And Robert gets on the board with 2 points. Don Amici, the show that he was in, Goldilocks, was the next year, was 1958, and he wasn't nominated anyway. So good job, Robert. Robert getting more points on the board. He now has.
That was pretty easy.
That was
no offense, Eva.
They're not going to. Robert Weedy would not have been not nominated. So that was pretty.
Yeah.
It was a
And
pretty
that show, Goldilocks, as he
yeah.
was.
Live, so I don't know.
It was a
Sorry.
prequel. It was a prequel, actually, to Fiddler on the Roof about Tevye's wife.
Goldilocks the doors because the Russians come in, they break everything. No, all right, here we go. We have our 12, 13, 14. Oh, no, we still have one more in the round. That means we have Robert, you get this question directly. Oh, my goodness. So this could heat up if you get this right.
Dave,
Are you ready?
You ready? Okay, go ahead. Hit me.
Anton Coppola, uncle of Francis Ford Coppola, was probably best known as a conductor and a composer for classical music and opera, but he also spent some years in the Broadway pit. In fact, in 1963, he was nominated for his musical direction of This Tuner, set in an Italian restaurant and featuring songs like Signora Pandolfi and A Camminare. Name that show.
Bravo, Giovanni.
Bravo, Robert Viagas! 2 points to you. Oh boy, this is tightening up. This is exciting. We have 2, 4, 6, 8. Robert with 10 points. David Sheward, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Holy cow. Yeah. This is 1 point difference here.
I have 10.
No, Robert has 10 and David Sheward has 11. Unbelievable. Oh, okay. This is exciting. We got one more round now. This is the final round, unless we need tiebreakers.
By the way, the composer of Bravo Giovanni was nominated for Best Score, but Stephen Sondheim was not nominated for A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum.
Classic. And do you know who wrote the book for Bravo Giovanni? I didn't realize this. Ronnie Graham.
Anna Graham.
Yeah. Anyway, we begin with David Sheward. So, David, you've got to protect your lead here. It's just a 1 point lead.
All right.
One of the new faces of 1962, this actress and singer won 1969 Tony Award as Best Supporting Actress in a Musical for playing Marge in Promises, Promises. Name this performer who would go on to a long TV career in shows like It's a Living and Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman.
Marion Mercer.
Is that your final answer, David Sheward?
Yes.
David Sheward, the GOAT! It was indeed Marion Mercer. David has 2 more points on the board, opening up the lead again. Oh boy, these last couple of questions are going to be decisive. So, Eva, this one's for you. Oh, let me make sure I wrote this down. Here we go. Eva, though reviews were mixed, and it never found an audience, this 2022 tuner received 10 Tony nominations, but took home just 1 for Best Actress Joaquina Kalukango. Name this musical set in 1863 New York.
Oh, it's a Stephen Foster musical. Oh my God, what was it called? Gosh. Oh, I actually know this one. I mean, it's actually...
That's why trivia games are so... I know it that way. I know it, right? Yeah.
Robert, I bet you're so happy you come after me because you might just beat David. And David, if my sister was here, she would have wiped the floor with you because we're opposites. And my sister is a ringer with this sort of thing. I'm going to say... Because I actually saw it off Broadway at the Cell first, and they changed it completely. And I'm just going to say Paradise Alley, even though I know that's wrong.
Is that your final answer, Eva Heinemann? Paradise Alley. All right, Eva Heinemann. Well, before I mention something, Robert, that is not the correct answer per se. So, Robert Viagas, the question kind of goes to you. 2022 tuner, 10 Tony nominations, 1 for Best Actress, Joaquina Kalukango. Can you name this New York-based set musical?
Paradise Square, but she should get 1 point for the Paradise.
She is getting 1 point. I want to intimate that. But yes, Eva Heinemann on the board. Robert Viagas picking up a point. Well done. Well done. Congratulations. Mazel tov to Eva. Mazel tov, of course, also to Robert. And now we come to our final question of the game. And I think it's still close enough. I haven't counted up yet whether it's going to be a tie thing or here. But this question does go directly to well, no, Robert picked up the thing. Whose question was that? This goes to Robert. Robert.
This question, so it goes now to Robert directly.
Wow. Okay, this is big. This is big. No pressure. Robert, at the 1962 Tonys.
I'm bigger now.
Yeah, look at you, my goodness. Looming over us, Walter Matthau.
What was it? Tell me the year. Tell me the year.
I'm sorry, 1962.
62.
Walter Matthau won a Best Supporting Actor trophy for this comedy mystery, in which he co-starred with Julie Harris and William Shatner. 2 years later, in the movie version, Shatner was replaced by a comedy star for whom the material was basically rewritten. Name that play and the Blake Edwards film.
The World of Susie Wong.
Is that your final answer?
It's my final answer.
I'm afraid
got
that's
it, Dave.
wrong. No, that is not correct. So, David Sheward, you can really, Gesundheit, you can see, you already, I think, sealed the victory, but now you can double seal it. 1962 Tony, Walter Matthau won Best Supporting Actor trophy for a comedy mystery. He was in there with Julie Harris and William Shatner. They made a movie of it 2 years later. Shatner was replaced by a big comedy star who, and the material was rewritten for this person. Name the play and the Blake Edwards film.
A Shot in the Dark.
Bing, bang! Yes, David Sheward, the winner of that question. It was A Shot in the Dark. And does everybody know what the movie? Sorry?
Deserved.
Star was Peter Sellers.
Right. And the character Inspector Clouseau, instead of what had been Magistrate Paul Sévigné, or Sévigné. I don't know the actual play, but the film was one of my dad's favorite comedies. Anyway, we have a winner. Dum da dum 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 da dum. I shouldn't.
Thank you.
I don't think I should sing either. But ladies and gentlemen, here on the Dave's Gone By Tony Broadway special, David Sheward. Some big applause for him. Also in second place, though, and doing very, very, very well, Robert Viagas and then Eva Heinemann. Let's very quickly again, what are you guys looking forward to in the upcoming Broadway season?
Oh, there are a lot of very interesting shows coming up. There's a play off Broadway at the Mitzi Newhouse that was a big hit in London called Kyoto, about the Kyoto Climate Conference. That sounds very interesting. And on Broadway, there's a show called Punch, Manhattan Theater Club is doing, which is also a big hit in London, that about a guy who assaults someone on the street in self-defense, and it alters his life, but it's the direction is supposed to be really interesting. That's what I'm looking forward to.
And Robert and Eva, any thoughts on what you're excited about seeing soon?
Queen of Versailles, I'd say. I want to see if he's going to be able to pull it off. He seems like he's only writing one show every 20 years now, but I want to see how they do. They've gotten some great reviews out of town, and so that's the musical that I'm most looking forward to. They're doing Oedipus on Broadway, and I'm always fascinated by the fact that these Greek plays that were written 24 centuries ago still have such an incredible amount of power when they have a good translation. So I would say that is one that I'm really looking forward to as well.
Do they know who's starring as Oedipus? I haven't heard about this. Who?
Know that the one who's in all the movies with Mike Lee is playing the female lead. I forget her name.
Oh, okay. I like her though. I think I know who you're saying. See, don't give me trivia. Now, Eva, I'm gonna flip the question on you, because one of the nice things about you and your show, High Drama, is that you pay attention to off Broadway. So I want to ask you, what was your favorite, way off show of the whole past season?
That was my favorite. I like surprises. So I went to Rockaway Theater Company, which I've never heard of. It's in Fort Tilden. There's no transportation. Thank God for Access-A-Ride, so I could go there. And I saw this play from this professor in Utah called The Value. And it was one of these like suspenseful, theater stealing a painting kind of gone bad, but maybe not gone bad. It was so good. It's like, oh my gosh, a theater I never heard of, a playwright who never come to New York. And it was like, wow, in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I had to cross 2 bridges and it took an hour to get there.
Well, and by the way, I want to say also, it's so great to see Eva here because you had a hell of a year this year. She mentions it accessoride in terms of getting. How are you?
Oh, it's fantastic. I got a replacement knee surgery. And I'm telling everybody, because I got to warn them, the pain is insane for 3 weeks. I mean, insane, worse than childbirth. But then afterwards, you can walk. You can go down the stairs 2 at a time. It's amazing. So, yeah. So
I have a titanium knee as well, and that's exactly right. You have to go through. You have to go through agony, but it is so worth it. It is so completely worth it.
Wow. Oh, I'm thrilled for both. I did not know that about you.
Well, guess what David gets is winning the show.
And David had his thing. He was hit by a car a couple of years ago, and he recovered from that. So we all have our things. But here's the things that these folks have. First of all, we've got Eva Heinemann, her show, High Drama. Look for it on YouTube. Look for it on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. We have David Sheward. Please read his theater reviews on culturaldaily.com, theaterlife.com, and, of course, totaltheater.com, and check his blog, The David Desk. David, you want to say something about your stuff or what you're working on? Or?
The reviews are also, I'm putting them on the blog as well.
Oh, they're on the blog also, The David Desk. And Robert Viagas, got to hold up those books. You've been working on a book that isn't theater related, which bothers me a lot. Well, you've got Right This Way about the audiences and Good Morning.
Right This Way and Good Morning Olive. But I am currently working on a update of At This Theater, which is going to come out in 2026, covering the last 15 years. And so I have had to write plot summaries of 785 shows.
Wow.
I thought that was going to be enough research to beat even David Sheward, but he is the GOAT. So
he is the GOAT, but you are all you're gods, greatest of Dave's gone by. So there he is. Thank you so much for joining us in the Daverhood on our very special Broadway show.
Honored to be on a panel with these great people.
Wonderful folks, wonderful. I'm going to say goodbye to all of you. Thank you. Have a wonderful season, and we'll see you next year in the Daverhood.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. One at a time. Oops, gotta go. Here we go. And we're done. Anyway, wow, it is 11:15 in the morning Eastern time. Wasn't that fun, ladies and gentlemen? Great, wonderful people. Robert Viagas, David Sheward, and Eva Heinemann playing our Tony Trivia Quiz. We have more stuff to do in the Daverhood on Dave's Gone By. We have more guests. We have more stuff to talk about the theater and the Tonys and the Broadway season. Do not go away. But let's see. We had, I think David Finkle tried to get in earlier while we were in the middle of the quiz. David, if you're watching, we have a little time for you before our next live guest. The fellow who didn't come in initially.
David did.
Finkle.
Didn't he come in?
We couldn't get to him because we're in the middle of the quiz.
Oh, okay.
But if he comes back, we'll try and get him, or maybe afternoon or something. Just tell him we'd love to have you.
Well, I think he wrote. I said we'd get to him in 10 minutes. That's what we told him.
That was before we started the quiz. Yeah.
Robert just said this is Robert. He's in the chat room.
Anyway. While we're waiting, let's see, our next live guest isn't for a bit, so we have a little breathing room, and the air is suddenly becoming fragrant with borscht and with matzo balls because we have a theater person himself, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple, Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. Now, Rabbi Sol did an off-Broadway show called Shalom Dammit, an evening with Rabbi Sol Solomon. He did that at the Roy Arias Theater. He did it at the Richmond Shepherd Theater many years back. He's also the guy who does our Rabbinical Reflections on Dave's Gone By. These are mini sermons about the world at large from a Jewish and occasionally controversial perspective. We bring Rabbi Sol on to do a reflection every year about Broadway and the Tony nominations, and very specifically, the Yiddishkeit quotient of them. And this year, he's finding that a little bit lacking. So let me share my screen once again to share that. And then Rabbi Sol Solomon, gotta make it big. Here we go. Rabbinical Reflection from the one, the only, the Jewish Rabbi Sol Solomon. Shalom, damn it! This is Rabbi Sol Solomon with a Rabbinical Reflection for June 7th, Tony Time 2025. As the MC in Cabaret says, where are your troubles now? Inside, outside, they're goddamn everywhere! But for one night, we dial back our anxiety and dyspepsia over the world around us and fixate joyously on art. The Tony Awards honoring excellence on Broadway is more than a bunch of navel-gazing artistes congratulating each other because at least for a while they don't have to get a real job. No, the American theater can be spectacular, meaningful, playful, beautiful, a temple just without the yarmulke bin. And I make this synagoguean analogy because every year I do a special rabbinical reflection celebrating Broadway, in particular, the Jews who make it happen. Sure, the great white way isn't that white anymore, and that's a good thing. But let's be clear, without us chosen, those curtains would be closing. Just look at the winners of the special awards this year. Harvey Fierstein, Lifetime Achievement recipient for La Cage, Torch Song, Kinky Boots. He even played Tevye. There wouldn't be a Newsies without Jewsies. And besides, who but a Jew would title a musical a catered affair? If Harvey Fierstein is a ringer, let's not forget about another honoree, Michael P. Price. He spent 40 years in Connecticut Regional Theater doing a good deed for the good speed. Price told the Jewish Ledger, and I quote, "The Jewish community is essential to any arts endeavor. I find it difficult to separate my work in the theater and my work as a Jew," unquote. Personally, I find it difficult to separate anything about me from my Jewishness up to and including my prostate. But I digress. I must say, it is disappointing that all the Tony nominees for Best Play are as goyish as a ham sandwich dipped in a martini. These are the first names of the playwrights: Sanaz, Jez, Kimberly, Cole, and Brandon. Hearing those names makes me feel like I'm on a trailer in Martha's Vineyard. There's a bit better luck with the musicals. David Yazbek did the songs for Dead Outlaw, and Will Aronson co-wrote the sleeper hit Maybe Happy Ending. I don't think any of the creators of Death Becomes Her are Jewish, but the show is about two bitchy women constantly getting work done, so close enough. That said, where are the Jews in the performance categories? Lead actors run from the Irish George Clooney to the Korean Daniel Day Kim, while the women range from Irish Laura Donnelly to Irish Mia Farrow. There's one girl named Sadie, but not that kind of Sadie. At least a couple of the featured performers are tribal. Jessica Hecht of Eureka Day identifies as a Reconstructionist Jew. Danny Burston is only half Jewish, but he's playing Herbie in Gypsy, and like Harvey, he was once a Tevye, so we'll take him. Still, the paucity of Yidlach in this year's Tony roster distresses me. Have my people stepped away or been nudged away owing to the gusher of anti-Semitism in which the liberal community now bathes itself? Are Jews last year's news because audiences whoop at every Star Search yodel and smugly applaud every woke dog whistle, but they've forgotten how to sit still and watch? Maybe Jews are sparse because Broadway producers pick one or two avatars to represent the race, say Tom Stoppard and Joshua Harmon, but more than that feels excessive. Whatever the reason, it would be nice to see a Hebraic renaissance at next year's Tonys. Nominees will wear their Jewishness proudly, the actors putting on snug tuxedo pants that outline their foreskinless fazoozles, the actresses brazenly displaying their original noses. And when some deluded nominee strides the carpet displaying a Palestinian flag pin or a red hand for Gaza, may they be outnumbered by a sea of blue and white buttons with 6 pointed stars and a Hamza with the middle finger pointed straight up. Let me close by offering some lyrics from the admirable if ponderous musical revival of Floyd Collins, written by two Jews, Tina Landau and composer-lyricist Adam Gettel, who's Richard Rodgers' grandson, no less. At the end of the show, the lead character sings, "Only heaven knows how glory goes, what each of us was meant to be. In the starlight, that is what we are. I can see so far." And then he dies because he's stuck in a cave. Spoiler alert. Oops, I should have said that before. But anyway, every artist working on and off Broadway, no matter their race or ethnicity, is laboring to create a glimmer of glory, a wondrous escape from our cruddy world, even when they have to bury our noses in the crud to help us understand it. Music, drama, dance, they help us see what we are, and boy, can they take us far. This has been a Rabbinical Reflection from Rabbi Sol Solomon, Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. Curtain up and stay away from caves. Here in the Daverhood, bit of Rabbi Sol Solomon there. So we're just going to close that up. It is just about 11:30 in the morning Eastern time. We have more guests coming up on this Total Theater Broadway Tony special with me, as I said, Dave Lefkowitz, on a 986th episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream. Don't forget that if you want to find out more about this program and watch or listen to the 19 other Tony shows that we've done, just go to davesgoneby.com, DAVESGONEBY, davesgoneby.com. And yeah, that's the place where we keep all our archives. We also have a separate archive of interviews there. Plus, you can find our archives on our special channel at archive.org, archive.org. And we also have a channel of audio only on the podcasting site castbox.fm. Well, let's get to another very, very special guest in the Daverhood. That let's see whom we got next.
Charlie?
It is Charlie. It is now. Charlie is speaking of Rabbi Sol Solomon, Charlie is Orthodox Jewish, so he doesn't do stuff on Saturdays. He couldn't be here with us live, but that's okay, because Charlie, we pre-taped him earlier in the week, and he is going to be discussing revival of a play. So Charlie is the co-founder and producer, longtime host of Two on the Aisle. For many, many years, he hosted it with our great friend Jeff Goodman. And now for several years, he's been doing it with Leslie Hoban Blake, and we will be hearing from her shortly in the program as well. But Charlie is here to talk about revival of a play on our Tony special. On our Tony Broadway special, we know this man, we know this face. We've known him for more than 20 years on this program, even longer for me, because he's Charlie Gross. Charlie is a theater critic. He's also a playwright and performer. But mainly today, it's the critic part because he's going to be talking, of course, about the Tony nominations, most specifically Revival of the Play. We'll get to that in a moment. But Charlie, how you doing? You doing okay?
I'm doing well, David. It's so wonderful to be doing Tonys with you. You know, maybe we've been doing this for 20 years on your show, but you and I have actually been doing the Tonys for probably about 30 years because you are Two on the Aisle's longest running guest critic. And we used to do the Tony. We used to have you every year. You would join Jeff Goodman and myself for the Tony predictions. We had this crazy thing where we tried to do it like the McLaughlin hour. Best idea. I've been watching some of the old shows. That may have not have been the best idea to present it, but we've had you. You did interviews. You were our go-to substitute critic whenever we needed one. So
yeah, I was proud to do it. People should know Two on the Aisle is like a theater review Siskel and Ebert version that you and Jeff Goodman started. Now you do it with Leslie Hoban Blake, and it's still on. People can watch episodes on YouTube where?
Just type in either Charles Gross or Two on the Aisle, or type in both, and you'll get us. Or Leslie Hoban Blake, you could type that. If you like, you could also, we're on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, so if you get cable in Manhattan, you can see it, or you can go to their website, mnn.org, and then you just see us on our broadcast time, which is every alternate Thursday at 10 o'clock. But YouTube is probably the best way.
The easiest and best way to see Two on the Aisle with our friend Charlie Gross. Well,
it's our goal to get 1,000 subscribers this year. So.
Oh, not good. Not good. I'll make sure I'm one of them.
Please.
Now, Charlie, we're going to go through Revival of a Play. Let me read the nominees. They're Eureka Day by Jonathan Spector, Our Town by Thornton Wilder, Romeo plus Juliet, written by this guy named William Shakespeare, and David Henry Hwang's Yellowface. I think that's a brilliant play, but I haven't seen this version. What are your thoughts?
Well, if you haven't seen Yellowface, and due to what I will charitably call a glitch, I did not get to see it on stage, you can see it on PBS. You go to either watch it on your local PBS station when they broadcast it, or go to their app, and it is absolutely worth seeing. It was beautifully captured. It's a wonderful production, and I think this may be the one that wins the Tony. But let's look at some of our others. Now, we have two classics. We have Thornton Wilde's Our Town, William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. And you have Our Town with Jim Parsons, and it was a very traditional production, with the exception of the fact that it had a multiracial cast. And traditional is fine with Our Town. I've seen like 4 productions of Our Town. I've never seen one that I did like. So this was a really good production. Romeo and Juliet was just the opposite. It was pared down, and it was set, I can only describe the set as a combination of West Side Story, The Outsiders, and F.A.O. Schwartz, because there were teddy bears all over the place.
All right.
And the director certainly put his mark on this one.
Are you happy about that? Or?
Well, I enjoyed it. My only problem was, my daughter especially had a problem with it, is that you had actors playing a lot of different roles, hardly unusual. But it could be very confusing at times. Like you had the same actor playing both of Juliet's parents. And at one point, I think the director acknowledged this because you had one of the actors come and say, okay, I'm this person now.
Really? Yeah. Okay, that's cheating a little bit. Fair enough. What did you think of Eureka? That is a show that I actually saw both off and on Broadway. What are your thoughts on Jonathan Spector's Eureka Day?
Eureka Day, I don't know if Eureka Day will win the Tony, but Eureka Day is the show that I would vote for. And I would choose it. I would picking the Tonys, and I'll tell you why. The show is about this school, a progressive private school, very liberal, and they have a policy you do not have to inject your children. You don't have to have them vaccinated. And that becomes a problem when an outbreak of mumps comes to the school, and one of the children is hospitalized, seriously ill, possibly may not survive. And it triggers this debate, and there is this meeting of the parents. And during the meeting, parents who cannot be there are texting. Now, there is definitely dialogue during that meeting, but you're not going to remember a word of it because the texts are just so hilarious. You know, it's been a while since I've laughed so much in the theater, and that's really what I loved about this show. But also, it does present both sides of the issue. I think, you know, I come down very firmly on the side of being vaccinated, but there you see the child who wasn't vaccinated, who was hospitalized, but you see one parent whose child got sick after being vaccinated. Now, there's no proof that the vaccination had anything to do with his child's being sick, but she felt that because it happened so soon, you know, look, when you lose a child, which is the worst thing that can happen to anybody, you know,
Yeah. So it sounds like Eureka Day is both hysterical, and I agree, that scene is hilarious, and it really is a thought-provoking, even-handed. That's why you loved it. That's why you're hoping it will win.
That is why I'm hoping it will win.
Now, let me ask you, Charlie, you mentioned before we went on cam that there were egregious, overlooked things that you wanted to talk about. In this category or a different category?
No, different categories that you normally do not talk about. One of them is best sound design for a musical. I have had a major problem with the musical theater over the past few years, that I go to a theater, I'm looking forward to seeing a musical, I go in, I can't understand the lyrics. Sound is terrible. And I've been going to the theater, you know, for 50 years. And it used to be I could hear the lyrics, even if I didn't know the music, even if I didn't know the score. And now, you know, I can't. And I think, well, maybe I'm getting old, maybe my hearing is going, but I take my daughter who's in her 20s, and she has the same problem. And it boggles the mind. You're spending millions of dollars on these shows. Broadway traditionally has the best lyric writers in the business. All right, well, maybe not so much.
Yeah, somehow, yeah. All right.
And so I was shocked when the two musicals that had, to me, the most pristine sound, I could hear every lyric, not partially because I was familiar with the songs, but I think just partially because the sound was really that much better. And that was Mick Porter in Old Friends, which is the Stephen Sondheim review, and Scott Lehrer for Gypsy. I mean, I heard words. I've been listening to the album with Carmen for years, and I heard words that I'd never heard of before. So these were two really excellent examples of sound, and neither of them were nominated. And
go figure, the two Sondheim shows will have the most pristine and clear sound, which is very important, actually. So now let me ask you, last question before we go. Charlie Gross, favorite show. Oh, sorry, you had another thing.
One more category.
One more egregiously overlooked, yeah.
And this, I can't really point fingers at because this category doesn't exist. And this would be for best stunt performed on Broadway. And that, hands down, has to go to Warren Yang in Death Becomes Her. There is this scene where one of the characters is thrown down the stairs, and he becomes Megan Healy's stunt person, and he does this amazing fall down this huge flight of stairs. It is brilliantly perceived, brilliantly choreographed, and brilliantly executed. You should get a special Tony Award for that.
Cool. Real quick, favorite show of the year?
Favorite show of the year? Off-Broadway, it would be, the play would be We Had a World, which I love. This was
Joshua Harmon.
Joshua Harmon, yes. And on Broadway, a beautiful romantic comedy of a musical called Maybe Happy Ending.
Oh, a lot of people love it. You're not alone in that one. That may, in fact, even win the Tony for Best Musical. It's a long shot. But
I would not be at all surprised.
Wow.
It would be a very nice thing if it did, to show that a show like that would be worthy of the Tony.
Well, let's have a happy ending here with Charlie Gross reminding you that you can watch Two on the Aisle on YouTube and on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Look for it. And Charlie, we always look for you on the aisle. Thanks so much.
Good to see you, Dave.
Hey, old friend. Charlie Gross is an old friend, and we will be talking with Leslie Hoban Blake also. She is the co-host, of course, of Two on the Aisle. She will be with us in just a little while here on our Total Theater Broadway Tony Special edition of Dave's Gone By Live on the Saturday, June 7th, the day before tomorrow night's Tony Awards happen. I think it's the 78th annual Tony Awards. I think it said something like that. Well, we'll find it out somewhere. It's somewhere in my massive, massive paperwork. which I'll get to. But anyway, the main thing to get to is we have another guest, of course. So many experts, so many theater mavens and mavises. Don't even know what that means. And, well, once we get past the 2.5 hour mark, my lips just say what they say. But very, very excited and happy to have with us another guest. He is Zachary Stewart. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He is the chief critic at theatermania.com. He's also a member of the New York Drama Critics Circle, and he'll be talking with us about score of a musical, which is not the whole songs, it's just the music part of the shows. So, first of all, there you are, and his name is not Paul, even though there we go. Zachary Stewart.
Just changed it.
There you go. Hey, Zachary,
Hey.
how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Mr. Lefkowitz?
I am doing great. Call me Dave, and by the way, I love your shirt.
I love your set design. Who doesn't?
My beloved set designing wife. Hey, wife, thank you so much.
She did a
She did.
spectacular job. That must have taken some time.
He sure did.
Minimum budget.
And minimum, yeah, the budget.
Show him what the quiz will.
Off Broadway.
Yeah, and we had our Tony trivia quiz earlier. This is the award.
Oh.
It's like, yeah, made in China, so you know it's quality workmanship.
But you won't be able to get it at that price much longer, will you?
I know, right? Yeah, it's going to be $3 now because the tariff is on. But anywho, Zach, you're looking great. What's real quick? How was the season for you overall?
I think this was spectacular. I mean, 14 new musicals, 14 new plays, 7 play revivals, 7 musicals. You know, the obsessive compulsive in me really loves those numbers, how even they are. And it was a lot of great, just a really, even the stuff that I expected to not love exceeded my expectations. You know, in the best musical category, there's a lot of shows that would win that category hands down in a lesser season. So it's really a lot of winners. I think it's the best season we've had coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it is rather astonishing. There were more than 40 shows. And if you think about Broadway was dead 5 years ago. I mean, a million people were actually dead, but Broadway itself is closed, and then it comes back roaring in the way that it has. So one of the reasons that we have, as you said, 14 new musicals, of which 5 have been nominated for Best Score. So let's talk about those, and maybe you can also mention ones that are egregiously overlooked because there's no room. But here are the nominees. Those are Dead Outlaw by Eric Della Pena and David Yazbek, Death Becomes Her from Noel Carey and Julia Mattison, Maybe Happy Ending by Hugh Park and Will Aronson, and then Operation Mincemeat, I will read the names, David Cumming, Felix Hagen, Natasha Hodgson, and Zoe Roberts, and last but not least, Real Women Have Curves from Joy Huerta and Benjamin Velez. So, let's go, Zach.
Well, as with so many of these categories, there's 2 clear front runners, and it's maybe Happy Ending and Dead Outlaw. And as I said, you know, I think Dead Outlaw could be a best musical winner in another season, but I think it'll be edged out by maybe Happy Ending in that big category. And I think, you know, for me, I think maybe Happy Ending might actually edge Dead Outlaw out in this category as well. However, as we've seen in previous seasons, sometimes when you don't win the big award, you know, you're given a consolation prize of best score or best book. This happened with Suffs last year. A couple of years ago, it happened with, I'm trying to remember what it was that didn't. So A Strange Loop won, and then the best score went to, Six, which is still running, and A Strange Loop isn't. So, yeah, this could end up being the one win. You know, everybody's saying, yes, maybe Happy Ending. This sounds like a Tony Award-winning score. It has a very specific, distinctive voice that sounds modern, but it also traffics in jazz pastiche, so it sounds often like old Broadway. I think voters really appreciate that kind of bridge building that seems like there's a continuity between the past and present and the future. And this is a very futuristic musical, of course. It's about robots. However, everybody's telling me that when they have to choose something to listen to this season, it's the Dead Outlaw cast recording that they're playing on repeat. And this has some excellent songs. It sounds like the 20th century. You know, it's this survey of popular American music throughout the time that this, I'm sure you've already talked about the musical, the time that this man's corpse was being abused all across the United States of America. And so it's, it's rock, it's pastiche, it's sometimes shamelessly stolen. The song My Dear Brother, I'm quite convinced, is just Makin' Whoopee, slightly rearranged, which just entered the public domain. So,
Oh.
and it's sung by some kind of fraudulent carnival folk. So it's like telling a story through fraud, about fraud. It's very smart songwriting from David Yazbek and Eric Della Pena. And I wouldn't be sad at all to see this show win that award.
Wow. So let me ask you about some of the other nominees. Are you happy about the slate, or would you replace one or two with shows that weren't nominated for score?
No, I think these are the right ones. I think these are. What about you? Is there one that you really feel like was snubbed here?
Well, I have to say I didn't see all the shows this season. I've died in the wool New Yorker. I was happy to see Real Women Have Curves get some love. Because I went in there and said, okay, it's going to be, and it was a lot better in a lot of ways than I expected. I thought the lyrics could have been nominated too. I think it was a very smart show, surprisingly smart show that didn't necessarily have to be. It could have just been an audience pleaser. I mean, what did you think of Real Women Have Curves? We haven't really talked about it in the show.
Oh, I think it's delightful, and I think it's kind of sad that it's being edged out in such a busy season. If it wins anything, I think it might be Justina Machado for her supporting performance as the mother Carmen. I think that might be the one win they get if they get anything. It's wonderful. It has these lovely tuneful songs. It sounds like a Broadway show from about the last 20 years, very heavily influenced by Jason Robert Brown. It's kind of that folksy light rock version, but it has, it works really well in that form. It doesn't seem to be pushing the form, I think. And I think that's what really kind of makes it, pale in comparison to shows like Dead Outlaw and maybe Happy Ending.
Huh. And what about, let's see, Death Becomes Her is up there. Is a funny score? Is the lyrics there? The music, what do you think?
Oh, I mean, the lyrics are great. There's a lyric, the one that, haunts me at the end is when they're doing this kind of dark version of the song For Good from Wicked, and Madeline Ashton turns into her and says, "You've got me and I've got glue." I mean, that's a marriage, right? Being put on a Broadway stage there. And the music, what I really appreciated about being in this show is you can tell Universal put some money into the band. And so you can hear real brass and you can hear real woodwinds. So it's almost like being at an old Cy Coleman musical when you go. And that's, the style that they're trafficking in. Again, not really pushing the form, but really embracing this old Broadway sound that we recognize as Broadway and doing a great job with it.
Yeah. Well, what was it? I don't remember when it was. It might have been Boop, it might have been Smash, but I put on to listen to the cast recording because I haven't seen either of those shows. And immediately I heard what sounded like a full orchestra, but I could tell it was synths. I could tell that they were using, it was gussied up with just electronic sounding brass. It's not the same.
It's not.
So, Boop and Smash, do they belong in this category or not?
No, I mean, Smash, it's terrible to say because it's Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman, who are two of the greatest songwriters working on Broadway right now. But that show is kind of a Franken musical. I feel like it's being held together by the magic and will of Susan Stroman, who is one of the greatest show people of my lifetime, and it's fun to watch. It's just not a great musical. And then Boop, Boop is, well, what? We're going to do the Barbie thing with another piece of IP on a Broadway stage. And for me, I think has everything to do with Jerry Mitchell's brilliant choreography again. He might win a Tony for that second act opener where they're in black and white, they're in color, they're in black and white, they're flipping around. It's brilliant. And then, of course, Jasmine Amy Rogers, who's giving an incredible Broadway debut, and I think will probably beat Audra on Sunday.
Wow. And can I ask, do you think can Don D the musical be far behind? Gasoline Alley? You don't even remember Don D. You're not old enough to remember Don D in the newspapers, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back here next year talking about the Rick Springfield musical. I mean, with a lot of these IP, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to boomer nostalgia because that does sell tickets, Neil Diamond sold tickets for over a year, and that was a crap musical,
I didn't see it, but ouch. So what? Last question for Zach Stewart, by the way. Your favorite show on or off Broadway of the whole entire season?
Gosh, I don't know if it was my favorite, but it's one I've been thinking about and people have brought up to me successively in the last 2 days. And I thought, this is interesting. There was a show out at St. Anne's Warehouse in Brooklyn called Burnout Paradise. And it was this Australian company called Ponycam. And what they would do is they were on 4 treadmills, and they had to complete different tasks, like filling out a grant application, cooking a 3-course meal while running on a treadmill. And then they would see how far they got, and they would have to try to beat their record from the last performance. And if they didn't, they offered everyone in the audience their money back. And so it was like experimental theater, but I'm in this Brooklyn theater and people are standing up and cheering and screaming and going wild. They're serving Gatorade in the audience. How to make experimental theater fun? You turn it into sports. That's what they learned, you know? And so I thought it was an extraordinary New York debut for this Australian company I'd never heard of. And I hope they come back. I've heard rumors maybe at the Astor Place Theater now that Blue Man Group is evacuating.
Wow, that would be ideal. Yeah. And it sounds like the feeling I got the first time I saw Blue Man Group, or the first time I saw what was it, David Shiner and Bill Irwin, or Too Much Light. When I first saw them in Chicago, I was like, this is something else. There's something new happening here. What was that called from the Australian Pony?
Burnout Paradise, and the company is Ponycam. Follow them on Instagram. They're going to be something really important.
Well, someone really important to us and someone that you guys should follow is Zachary Stewart. He is the chief critic at theatermania.com, so by all means read his reviews there. Zachary, wishing you a happy end to this Broadway season and many, many more seasons to come. Thank you so much for being with us in the Daverhood.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. All right, Zachary Stewart on the Dave's Gone By show this Saturday morning. It is June 7th, 2020. Burnout Paradise is an hour, no intermittent. What combining like competition.
It's like one of the one of these physical activity challenges, right? Like Survivor or something like that.
Yeah. It's interesting stuff, man. The old stuff is interesting. That's the beauty of Broadway and theater. It's the old stuff. It's revivals of things that are done stead and normally, and sometimes then completely reworked. It's finding brand new ways of exciting people in storytelling, too. That's what it's all about. Well, it is 10 to noon Eastern Time here in the Daverhood. So we do have a bit more to do in this Broadway special, and yes, of course, we're going to be running overtime. I can't help that.
See
if there's anything from David, but we do have a couple more guests to go through. But since we don't really have a little time. We're already over time. But let's do our Dave Says Bye segment, kind of our memorial segment of people that we lost in the past theater season, who were theater people and who were on this very program over our 22 plus years doing Dave's Gone By. So there are theater-related people such as Misha Burson. Got to say farewell to her, that I knew from the American Theater Critics Association. She died on February 13th of this year. She was a critic she wrote for American Theater Magazine, and most of all, for many years, she was the critic for the Seattle Times in Washington. So a big farewell to Misha Burson. Farewell at age 90 to Catherine Crosby. Yep. That Catherine Crosby. She was in Bing Crosby on Broadway back in, when was it, the 1970s, I guess. And then her last Broadway appearance, I actually saw her in 1996 in a musicalization of the musical film State Fair. And she passed away on September 20th of last year. Jules Feiffer, major voice of the 1960s and 70s. His play Passionella was adapted into the musical The Apple Tree. He also had on Broadway Little Murders, Knock Knock, and the first play that I ever went to see on Broadway as a grown-up by myself, getting tickets at either Twofer's or TDF, was his play Grown Ups. So got to say a farewell to Jules Feiffer, who lived until age 95. And then farewell to George Kresge, not a Broadway guy, but you know him as the Amazing Kreskin. And so his whole life was spent on stages doing mentalism and hypnotism and magical things. So the Amazing Kreskin, he lived till 89 years old, and he died on December 10th of 2024. Peter Marshall made it to 98 years old before he passed mid-August of last year. He was a singer. We know at Hollywood Squares, I know. But he was on Broadway in 1961's How to Make a Man and in 1965's Skyscraper, and he also was a replacement cast member in the original La Cage aux Folles. So farewell to Peter Marshall, and once again, someone who hasn't been on Broadway, but who did have, especially in recent times, some off-Broadway and kind of regional success with a couple of shows. Jill Sobule. Jill was on our show 3 times, mainly because she's a pop and rock artist and put out some wonderful albums. If you don't know Underdog Victorious, if you don't know Pink Pearl, if you don't know a couple of her albums, you need to get to know her. But in her latter, not that she lives so long, but in her latter years, she was working on musicals, including Prozac and the Platypus, that has a cast album, and it was done in a couple of places. And then a show that got some serious success in New York called Fuck 7th Grade, pardon my French, but that was done, I believe, at the Public Theater and Joe's Pub, and then they brought it off Broadway a couple of times. It kept getting more and more popular. They kept bringing it back. And I'm sure, had she lived, etc., because she was in it, that we would be seeing it in a year or two in a more commercial off-Broadway staging, Fuck 7th Grade. But a big farewell. It was big news. She passed away in a house fire on the first day of May in 2025, Jill Sobule. So these are all people, if you want to hear their appearances on Dave's Gone By over the years, remember you can go to davesgoneby.com for all the archives. When we were a radio show only and was just audio, we got it. If you want to hear and watch the videos, because the past 7 years, we've been doing this as a Facebook video podcast, that's there too. So davesgoneby.com is the website. Our archives are also at archive.org, and our audio archives are at castbox.fm. Plus, we have a YouTube channel where most of our stuff is. We lost a bit of it because of copyright issues, but we're there. And of course, we have this Facebook page, Dave's Gone By. Tell everybody. And remember that our Facebook page, our Instagram is david.lefkowitz. Our Twitter feed, or our X feed, is Radio Dave 2. Well, we still have more to do. We have a couple more guests in the Daverhood on this very special edition of Dave's Gone By, our Broadway special. So we have, here we go, wonderful writer and personality. Her name is Raven Snook. Let me get the details on her as I also share my screen again. There we go. Raven is the editor-in-chief of Theater Development Fund Stages magazine. She's also written for Time Out magazine. She has her own website, ravensnook.com. She's a delight, and she is here with us to talk about her category, which is featured actress in a musical. Take it away, Raven. On this Total Theater Tony show, what a joy to bring back to the Daverhood one of our wonderful critics. She is Raven Snook. She is the editor-in-chief of TDF Stages magazine. That's run by the Theater Development Fund folks. You'll also read her criticism in Time Out magazine, and she's taking a little time out of her busy schedule right here today to talk to us about featured actress in a musical. But first of all, how are you, Raven? How was your season?
It was a really exciting season. There was so much great work. There were some of the worst shows I've ever seen and some of the best shows I've ever seen. So
I have to stop because everybody's saying how wonderful the season was. It really was a great season. But what was so terrible? What did you hate?
Oh God, McNeil, Tammy Faye, Swept Away. I will say I am Swept Away is an acquired taste. I know people who absolutely adore it, but that was 90 minutes of torture for me.
Oh my!
I wanted them to kill and eat me at that point. Spoiler.
All three of those were essentially flops in a way. So
yeah. Well, but McNeil was actually very successful financially. Artistically, that's another matter.
Fair enough. Well, we're not here to talk about necessarily things you hated. We're here to talk about a category.
I loved more than I hated.
Exactly. Well, all right. Then, what was your favorite show of the season?
Maybe Happy Ending. And let me tell you, it's a hard pick because I loved so many shows, but I think just in terms of originality, in terms of a show where everything works, the songs, the book, the performances, and the design, which is absolutely stunning and unforgettable, I'd have to pick that, even though, Dead Outlaw, Death Becomes Her, and Buena Vista Social Club are all close behind in terms of enjoyment.
Oh, good. Oh, that's what we love about a season. Like, it's this one, but by this much, because these are.
And that's just the musicals. John Proctor is the villain in Purpose, also incredible. I mean, 2 Pulitzer Prize-winning plays up for the Tony, because you have Purpose, which just won, and English, which won a few years back. And it may end up going to John Proctor. I mean, who knows? It was a pretty incredible season.
Well, we have some incredible nominees for featured actress in a musical, which is the category you'll be tackling, giving us some info about the nominees and also your picks and what you think will win. Let me read them down. It's Natalie Venetia Belcon in Buena Vista Social Club, Julie Nitto, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, in Dead Outlaw, Gracie Lawrence in Just in Time, Justina Machado in Real Women Have Curves, and Joy Woods as Louise in Gypsy. Raven, take it away.
Well, this is a great category, and one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it is that there really are no duds in this category at all, although I do think there's someone who's the favorite to win, and I agree with it, and that's actually the first one alphabetically, Natalie Venecia Belcon. She plays Omara Portuondo. It's terrible. I am such a gringa. I'm married to a Puerto Rican. If he heard that pronunciation, he'd probably divorce me. But she plays this legendary Cuban singer. She is so good. She originated the role off Broadway when the show was done last season at the Atlantic. She learned Spanish for the role, which is unbelievable. I mean, I looked that up because I thought, does she speak it fluently? She sounds just so comfortable and so fluent. And this woman has done such incredible work on stage for 30 years. I remember her very fondly as originating Gary Coleman in Avenue Q, both off Broadway at the Vineyard, and then she did it on Broadway. But, she doesn't get enough work. I mean, I guess she's working regionally, probably doing concerts, but I just always love when I see her, and I think it's going to be her year. I think she deserves to be her year. Buena Vista Social Club is all about the band. The band is actually getting a special Tony Award that's on top of the 10 nominations that the show has, which ties it with Maybe Happy Ending and Death Becomes Her for the most nominations this season. And, it really is about the music and it is about the band. And even though the performers are absolutely solid, she is the heart and soul of this piece. It is really her story, her arc. She stands out, and I think she's going to win, and I think she deserves it.
Fair enough, but let's have a little bit about some of the other nominees.
It doesn't mean I don't like the other people.
No, absolutely. And, you're choosing, again, by gradations here. So what about Julia Nittel? Again, not sure.
I admit I'm not, I want to say Niddle, but I could be completely wrong. It could be Kniddle for all I know. This is another transfer from off Broadway, Dead Outlaw. She was great last season. She's wonderful in it. Like most of her co-stars, she plays multiple roles, and she plays them all very, very well. Even the small ones. At one point, she plays a teenager who confides in the title corpse. And it's, just this wonderful characterization. But, unless you're somebody like Sarah Snook, for example, who's playing 26 roles in a solo show, actors are not usually, it's hard when you're playing so many small roles. It doesn't feel like this cohesive arc. And I just don't see her winning this year, even though she shows off her versatility and she's a gorgeous voice. I would like to see more of her. She's only done a little bit of Broadway, and I hope she does a lot more.
What about Gracie Lawrence in Just in Time, the Bobby Darin show?
So she really blew me away. What a singer she is. And so it wasn't surprising to find out that she actually is mostly a singer. She and her brother have a band called Lawrence. It's a soul pop band. Totally, full disclosure, I'd never heard of them, but they seem to be pretty popular in certain scenes. And, the voice that she has on her is absolutely amazing. She does a good job acting the part. It really is more about the singing. I mean, the whole show is about the singing. It's almost done like a nightclub act. And she was wonderful. And the fact is, she was across from Jonathan Groff, who's a beloved Broadway mainstay with the Tony, and she held her own. But again, I don't think it's going to be her year. I do hope we see her a lot more on Broadway. I hope she doesn't just go away with her band forever.
And what about Justina Machado in Real Women Have Curves?
So can I just say, I didn't say it was one of my favorites, but I love Real Women Have Curves, the musical. I think it's so underrated. It does not break the mold. It's very old fashioned in a lot of ways, and it does exactly what you expect it to. But my God, is this a crowd pleaser? And the biggest part of the crowd, the crowd is most pleased by Justina. When she comes on, people freak out. And part of that is she's a star. She's a TV star. People know her from One Day at a Time. They know her from 6 Feet Under. She's done some Broadway. She did In the Heights and stuff, but she really is known for her TV work, and people adore her. And that's really key, because the matriarch she plays is really kind of awful to her daughter at times. And she's not awful because she's a mean person. It's because she's worried. It's because, it's an undocumented family. The daughter is very bright, but she's the only one born here, so she is documented. I mean, talk about a timely subject, even though this is set in 1987. And, she really wins you over even when she's not being the nicest person. I think in maybe a different year, it could have gone her way, but this show has really been overlooked. It only got 2 nominations. Really very depressing to me, because I think it's wonderful, but it's also indicative of what a strong year it was.
Yeah. It's not a critic's darling, it's an audience darling, maybe.
Well, yes, but it's not doing, you can look at the grosses. Like, the grosses are what they are. I do think this show could be a hit if it found the right audience, and it hasn't yet. I hope maybe it will. I hope maybe if they get a number on the Tonys, they may not. They were not nominated for Best Musical. I think that could really help, but they were nominated for Best Score, so I don't know.
Now, last but certainly not least, let's not forget Joy Woods, who is Louise, and yet another revival of Gypsy, a good one. But your thoughts?
So I looked this up because I was curious. So there have been 6 productions of Gypsy on Broadway. And in all 6, the actress playing Louise has been nominated. And Laura Benanti actually won the Tony in 2008. The other ones didn't win. But obviously, critics love this part. It's a great part. It's an incredible transformation from this mousy girl into this burlesque queen. I like Joy Wood. She's talented. She has a beautiful voice. She is gorgeous to look at. I will admit, having seen this part a lot, I think I've seen more convincing transformations. When she was mousy, I was just kind of like, girl, just put on some lipstick. It didn't feel like the full transformation. But look, she does a great job. It's a revolutionary take on it because it isn't colorblind casting. This is a Black family. George C. Wolfe, the director, has been very clear on that. And, I will never forget this Gypsy. And it meant so much to me that this was my daughter's first Gypsy. So she will forever, Audra will be her Mama Rose, which is amazing.
Well, curtain up, light the lights. We've got nothing to hit but the heights, with Raven Snook sharing her thoughts on this category and about the Tonys and Broadway in general. Raven, it's been fantastic again having you on the program. Everybody go to ravensnook.com to follow her writing, to read her stuff. Raven, Snook, ravensnook.com. Raven, time for us to fly away, but thank you for being with us once again.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Here in the Daverhood, on the Dave's Gone By Tony Broadway special for this June 7th, 2025, the day before the Tony Awards tomorrow night. So I'm just checking to see if we have any. I can't do this. No. No. Gotta go back that way. Hold on. Nope, nothing there. Just seeing if there's any little extras we're going to add to the show.
Maybe what happened was some people think the Tonys are tomorrow. They might think it's tomorrow.
Oh, maybe, yeah, it's
That's what
possible.
I would think, yeah.
Yeah. No, we're all good. We're all good. We just have one more guest so far. I was wondering if Jonathan could come back because I think he tried to get back on again, maybe with better Wi-Fi.
Did David Finkle come on?
Yeah, he did. He was great. Well, we've had everybody except, last but not least, our longtime beloved Leslie Hoban Blake. Now, Leslie, she is the co-host with Charlie Gross. We met Charlie earlier, of Two on the Aisle. And, Leslie has also been a director herself for many years, so she tends to take the directing category when, there are categories. Her, and no different this year, she is going to be doing the category of director of a musical. So, without further ado or don't, here's Leslie Hoban Blake on our Broadway Tony special. On our special annual Tony Broadway broadcast here on Dave's Gone By, delighted to have a friend who's been with us many, many times, either playing our Today, Yesterday trivia quiz, or certainly appearing on these Tony shows as a theater expert. She is a theater critic. In fact, she is the historian for the Drama Desk. She's also the co-host of Two on the Aisle, which you can watch on both YouTube and Manhattan Neighborhood Network. She's Leslie Hoban Blake, and she is had a bit of a tumble yesterday, but she's with us. Leslie, how you feeling?
I like the tumble. I love that word. It sounds like one of the shows I'm going to talk about was the slow thing down the staircase, right? That's a tumble. I took a fall, but anyway. I'm fine. I'm going to get an MRI when we finish talking.
Okay, she's getting an MRI and she's going to the theater tonight, which is quite wonderful.
That's right.
The commitment.
That's right.
So
get up and go again. That's what you have to do.
Leslie is here to talk about director of a musical. So let me read out the nominees, which are Shahim Ali for Buena Vista Social Club, Michael Arden for Maybe Happy Ending, David Cromer for Dead Outlaw, Christopher Gattelli for Death Becomes Her, and Jamie Lloyd for Sunset Boulevard. So, Leslie, the floor is yours.
I have to say, last night, I truly loved both on and off Broadway. I thought Ali did a phenomenal job. I wish that he had done half as well with Goddess as he did with Buena Vista, which I just happened to see. It's a marvelous show and should be seen. Maybe Happy Ending is one of the most darling shows. Someone said it's one of the sweetest shows they ever saw, and it's not often one says sweet about a show, but it is. It is very sweet. And I haven't seen Dead Outlaw, so I can't really talk about it. I didn't see it off Broadway. I didn't see it on Broadway, so that's my loss, I guess. I have to be honest with you. Well, anyway, so I have something to say about Jamie Lloyd and Chris Gattelli, and that's what I really want to talk about. I'm not sure that any of these are my favorite that I'm talking about, but Jamie Lloyd's experimental stripped down version of Sunset Boulevard versus Chris Gattelli's absolutely traditional, overstuffed, big wigs, big dresses, lots of lights and music and sets, and more extreme, the extremes of musical. The stripped down, nothing but the music and the person doing it. The costumes are all the same. It's black and white. It's very, very stark, I think would be the word for Sunset Boulevard, as opposed to Chris Gattelli's throwing everything at the wall, and if it didn't stick, he picks it up and throws it again. It's a wonderful show. They are both wonderful in their own ways. I came out feeling fantastic. If a musical makes my heart race and makes me walk a little bit off the ground when I get out, that's my musical. Well, they both did it, and they're both totally different. I will start with Chris Gattelli, who has gone from choreographer to director, and you can see that he knows everything that's going on the stage. He's the Mel Brooks of directors, in the sense that everything is. There's not a step that, no pun intended, there's not a step that isn't exactly right, including that wonderful tumble that actor, whose name I can't think of at the moment, takes. It's not the actress who falls down. It is an actor who does it in the play. But it's a stage adaptation of a film. Nothing original about that. Fabulous female roles and beautifully cast. And all of this is the director's job. I mean, casting is the director's job too. So Megan Hilty and Jennifer Samard, my God, this could be better than the two of them. If you couldn't actually get Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn. You see, I think they've done a wonderful job with that. And just the costume for days, and the wigs and the dresses, and Christopher Sieber is wonderful in that thankless role. That it becomes much more than a thankless role with him. I think it was more of a thankless role in the movie than it is in the play. And it's just giant and big and over the top. And I mean, if you have a number called We Do It for the Gays, you know where you're headed. And you know what's going to happen. And it's just marvelous.
Well, do you think who has the edge in terms of getting the votes? Christopher Kelly or Jamie?
Yeah. Talking about Jamie Lloyd, but that's okay. I really didn't mention, but it's okay. I don't know if anybody has the edge. This is like a horse race this time. I really think that it's, coming out of the gate, and I don't see a favorite. I don't know what anybody else has said about this. I don't see a favorite. There was a point in time when I thought that maybe Happy Ending was going to be the favorite because it was the critical success of the year. It got the most wonderful reviews ever. Nobody had a bad thing to say about it. It wasn't like, well, if they did such and such, it would have been better. It was just an amazing outpouring out. But it's not only critics who vote for the Tony. So that's not going to necessarily say anything. They're looking to see what can travel well. I mean, we've been through this before. This is really, they took most of the critics out. They put a few back. But it's actors and producers and directors and mostly producers who are interested in making money on these shows and want to be able to take them out on the road. It really has become, that's the big deal for any show that wins a Tony knows it's going to have a road, a bus and truck tour, if nothing else, probably better than.
Leslie, let me just ask you though, since you're a voter for the Drama Desk and I believe the Outer Critics Circle as well. I mean, which would you vote for director of a musical? Would it be? Where would you not push them out?
I know what I voted for. I voted for Sunset Boulevard.
You voted for Jamie Lloyd. Okay.
All of this thinking about, because I knew I was going to be talking to you, and I really sat down and thought about it, and I felt that what I saw was more inventive, was totally a director's show in the Jamie Lloyd thing. I mean, everything had to be precise. Everything had to be, there wasn't any interplay with the audience. It was done completely up there, whereas if something happened or a silly look could be shown, or if anybody slipped or did anything, you could bring the audience in, you could do something with the other show. But Jamie Lloyd's show is Jamie Lloyd's show. It's his vision from top to bottom. And it isn't Chris Catelli's isn't. It isn't that Saeem Ali's isn't. I would think that Michael Arden's and Saeem Ali's are very specific visions. There's no question. And I think if I had to go for my second favorite, it wouldn't necessarily be Death Becomes Her. It probably would be the Buena Vista Social Club. Oh. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that so much. And to bring in the Justin Peck, that's his name, right? The choreographer Justin Peck.
I need to check that. For which? Justin Peck and Patricia Delgado for Buena Vista. Yes.
Well, I think so. So Patricia Delgado brought in the Latin flavor or the Latino flavor from she's female, but Justin Peck brought in that muscular. I remember his Carousel Sailors and the muscular kind of dance that they did. And these actors are dancing in that kind of muscular fashion, the men and the women, everything. Their whole bodies are just throwing themselves around everywhere. And that is the way I think people really dance to this music when nobody's looking, But we're looking this time.
Very quickly, I have a last question for Leslie Hoban Blake, which is, if you had to pick one or two shows from the entire season on or off Broadway that were your favorite, what would it be?
One was on and one was off, and neither was a musical. John Proctor is a Villain is the best new play I've seen. I was not nominated for the Pulitzer, and I don't know why. It's such an important piece of work. I'm standing outside. Women, young women, older women, standing around talking. I got into a little group that was talking. It so much touches us that I can't imagine it not being, but women, what can I say? And Fatherland, interestingly enough, which was an off-Broadway 4-character play about January 6th, the insurrection. And it was based on the actual testimony. And of course, since I saw the play, the guy who was arrested, the guy who turned in his father, the father has been freed because everybody from January 6th was freed. Yeah. So, there's just nothing. The world is going to hell in a handbasket. I don't know quite how to
And next year, I'm sure they'll have a musical about the Grizzlies. You never know.
I bet they'll be in it, I mean,
Yes.
that would be good.
We are very happy that Leslie Hoban Blake has been in it with us in our Tony Show. Leslie, be sure to watch her, of course, with Charlie Gross on 2 on the Aisle in excerpts and also entire episodes on YouTube and Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Leslie, feel great. Have a wonderful summer and on to more theater. Thank you so much.
Same to you, William. Same to you. And thanks for the plug. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. On the Total Theater Tony Show, a Broadway-related Dave's Gone By episode here on this Saturday, June 7th, 2025. Dave Lefkowitz here. Wow, we built a bigger crowd towards the end of the show than we had even going in. Listen to it, they're roaring. They're so excited as to be roaring. Well, before we let you go, let's see. I do want to say a couple of things before we get to the thank yous and the farewells and things. Many people have been talking all show long about the Broadway season itself and how one critic wasn't that impressed, but most others were just like kind of, one even said there were 14 new plays, 14 new musicals, so much and so much quality.
Back after the pandemic.
Yeah, or even years before the pandemic. When I first started reviewing Broadway in the mid-1980s, it was a quote-unquote the fabulous invalid. It was like not in great shape. And now, not just the fact that, they're selling more or charging more than ever, or getting more money, box office grosses than ever, because they're charging through the roof. But people are still coming in, and work is being done. And the eclecticism of what's up there. Let me just go through some of the things that have gone through this season, which started back in early May of last year, because the season goes from May until end of April, early May of the next season. So the season opened with a specialty thing of Ben Platt, a concert that he did at the Palace Theater. He's the guy from Dear Evan Hansen. And then the first play proper, if you will, of the season was Home, a revival of that Sam Art Williams drama, which the only sad part of that was Sam Art. What are you looking for there? My phone? Yeah. By Sam Art Williams, which the only unfortunate part is that he passed away just a few months before they did this Broadway revival of the play. And then Oh Mary. Surprising that people haven't really talked that much about it. Very funny show that opened off Broadway and then moved to Broadway fully intact, making a big star of Cole Escola as Mary Todd Lincoln, a brat who just wants to do cabaret. It's hilarious if you haven't seen it. A wild farce that comes right out of the school of the old ridiculous theatricals troupe. There was a dark drama called Job, and then a revival, nobody talks about this, of Once Upon a Mattress with Sutton Foster. And then The Roommate, when we mentioned Patti LuPone before, because how can you not mention Patti LuPone? She was in there with Mia Farrow and got some pretty decent reviews on that. A play I wish I'd seen called The Hills of California by Jez Butterworth. He's the guy who did The Ferryman, which I thought was the best play for a very long time, a couple of years back. McNeil, we mentioned, did not get great reviews. Would have been a flop, except it had a pretty famous actor in there, Robert Downey Jr. over at Lincoln Center. Then another play that I'm surprised nobody talked about, well, didn't really do so much about plays on this one, but Yellowface. They did an adaptation of Yellowface during the pandemic as kind of Zoom theater, and it was terrific. PBS taped this David Henry Wong play recently, or more recently, when it was on Broadway, and just showed it a couple of weeks ago. I haven't had a chance to see it, but it's a really fine, smart play. If you get to see it, Yellowface, directed by Lee Silverman. There was a revival of Our Town, one of the classics, Di Tutti classics, staged by Kenny Leon, the Thornton Wilder play. Sunset Boulevard, a lot of people have talked about, a real different take on this Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. There was a nice little show called Left on 10th, all about Delia Ephron dealing with cancer and finding the love of her life. What else? Romeo plus Juliet, a little bit of Shakespeare there. Sam Gold directing at Circle in the Square. A Wonderful World, the Louis Armstrong musical, was okay, was pretty good, enjoyable to watch, telling the Armstrong story and some stuff that you might not have known about him. Maybe happy ending. A lot of people have mentioned this one, all about robots finding love that may or may not be temporary and might actually win the Tony for Best Musical. A big flop. We haven't really talked about a lot of flops yet, but Elton John had a musical on Broadway called Tammy Faye, all about Jim and Tammy Faye Baker. That kind of went. But then they brought Elf back, as they do almost every holiday season. There was a musical called Swept Away, written by the Avett Brothers. Nothing to do with the Lena Wertmuller film, but apparently that has its advocates too. It got no love from a lot of the award season people. But, some people really, really like that show, Swept Away. And then a real hit here, Death Becomes Her, which people have talked about and is a very funny and clever show. Cult of Love, a play by Leslie Headland that was worth seeing, but it was, in my mind, blown away by Purpose, which had the same idea of a dysfunctional family coming together for a holiday. Eureka Day, we talked about that one, another comedy of the moment. Gypsy, the revival of Gypsy with Audra McDonald, All In, a comedy about love, which was all these little one-act comedy things. Then English, played by Sanaz Tusi, all about an English class in Iran. And not my favorite play of the season, but certainly worth seeing. Redwood, that was, of course, the Idina Menzel return to Broadway as a woman trying to find herself after a terrible tragedy by climbing redwoods in the California forest. Purpose, which, I don't know, the more I think about John Proctor as the villain, the more I keep thinking about it. But in terms of watching the show, my heart is still with Purpose as best play of the season. Just so funny and so well put together by Brandon Jacobs Jenkins. A few too many monologues, but you couldn't blame him. You couldn't blame him for not wanting to stay in this milieu. Buena Vista Social Club, based on the Wim Wenders film, apparently wonderful music and dancing. You have Operation Mincemeat, a real out-of-the-blue, more than a sleeper hit, a hit all about a true story that happened in World War II of English spies trying to fake out the Germans into attacking one place instead of the other place that's better defended. And it's I reviewed it on this program. I have some issues with it being sometimes too silly and going a little too far in things, but also parts of it are wonderful. And that Jack Malone song alone is worth the price of several tickets. Othello, right? Not the best reviewed Othello ever, but you've got Jake Gyllenhaal and Denzel Washington in there over at the Ethel Barrymore Theater, just making money hand over fist. The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is an adaptation of the Oscar Wilde piece with a lot of multimedia. And what is her name? I'm so sorry.
Give me, I'll look it up.
Picture of Dorian Gray.
Picture of Dorian Gray.
It's Kip Williams is the author, but the actress is
Picture of Dorian Gray on Broadway.
Sadie Sink. No, Sarah Snook. We have a Sadie Sink and a Sarah Snook, and they're both nominated. Thank you for Picture of Dorian Gray, Emmy winner for, what did she win for? All 26 roles in this solo show at the Music Box Theater, and it's gotten marvelous reviews.
26.
With people sort of debating whether how much of it is theater and how much is already sort of pre-taped stuff, which people also debate about in Good Night and Good Luck, the George Clooney and Grant Heslov show, all about Edward R. Murrow. Also opening, Glengarry Glen Ross, yet another revival of that show, the David Mamet classic. Bill Burr is in there. Do you get the sense of what a season this has been? Boop! The musical about Betty Boop. There was a revival of the last 5 years with one of the Jonas Brothers in the two-person cast. We didn't even talk about Sondheim's Old Friends, which got terrific reviews, and I really, really enjoyed seeing. I mean, if you want to see 2.5 hours of great Stephen Sondheim songs done by really talented people, among them Bernadette Peters and Lea Salonga, not to mention Kate Jennings Grant and Beth Level, and Gavin Lee, Sondheim's old friends at Manhattan Theater Club. Let's see, we've also got Smash, which is, I admit, I never saw the TV show, and they've turned it into, and this has had critics kind of divided, as you've heard on this program. John Proctor is the villain. If Purpose doesn't win for Best Play, John Proctor will. Floyd Collins, a musical I've just never really been able to get into, although I respect a lot. That is over at Lincoln Center's Vivian Beaumont Theater, all about the guy in the cave. And Stranger Things, speaking of TV shows turned into musicals. Stranger Things, The First Shadow, with a lot of jump scares and regular scares and creepy things and amazing special effects. Pirates, the Penzance Musical, a New Orleans reimagining of Gilbert and Sullivan's The Pirates of Penzance, with the treasurable, I mean, how can you not love David Hyde Pierce? Absolutely, as the modern Major General. Just in Time, we were talking about that show, about Bobby Darin. Real Women Have Curves, a very, kind of an underrated but a real audience-pleasing musical. And the season closed with Dead Outlaw, co-written by our friend of the Daverhood, David Yazbek, and directed by David Cromer at the Longacre Theater. Whoa! That is every new... That doesn't even count the shows that are still running from years past. That was every new production on Broadway this season. What a season it has been, and what a delight to talk about it with you here, and with all these wonderful guests on our special Tony show on Dave's Gone By. So it is time now for our round of thank yous. If I could just find the page with my thank yous on them. Here we go. Oh, no, that's not it. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, no, it isn't. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, no, it isn't. Here we go. Big, big, big thanks to Leslie Hoban Blake of Two on the Aisle, also Charlie Gross of Two on the Aisle, which you can watch parts of and also full episodes of on YouTube. David Finkle of New York Stage Review. Thank you to him for joining us. Thank you so much to Eva Heinemann for playing our trivia game alongside Robert Viagas. Get his books, by the way, Good Morning Olive, about haunted theaters, and Right This Way, A History of the Audience. And he's going to be updating the Louis Bago book again at this theater for Playbill. So congratulations to him on that. Jonathan Mandell of NewYorkTheater.me. Brian Scott Lipton of Culture Vulture and City Tour. Read his reviews. David Sheward, of course, from TotalTheater.com, CulturalDaily.com, the David Desk blog. Raven Snook, read her in TDF Stages. Did I mention Carey Purcell? I think I missed her. She also writes for TDF Stages and has written the book From Afra Ben to Fun Home about feminism, cultural feminism in the theater. Zachary Stewart, read his writings, his reviews in theatermania.com, for which he is the chief critic. And let us not also forget a big, big, big thank you to Mike Isaacson, not to mention a big congratulations to him, because he is the artistic director and the executive producer of the Muni Theater in St. Louis, which just won the Tony Award for Best Regional Theater. If I could just find his page, because there's someone else I have to thank for bringing him onto the program. Oh, Gabe Hartwig. Thank you very, very much for Gabe Hartwig, also over in St. Louis, for recommending and helping me get Mike Isaacson in the Daverhood. Thank you to Rabbi Sol Solomon, the one, the only, the Jewish. Read his Rabbinical Reflections, hear them too. Also, you can watch the stage show that I mentioned, Shalom Dammit, An Evening with Rabbi Sol Solomon, at his website, shalomdammit.com. Shalom, D-A-M-M-I-T, shalomdammit.com. That's also the place to watch his 10 hilarious episodes of a show that he did for Long Island Cable TV a few years back. Thank you to Rabbi Sol. Oh, and happy Shavuos and Shmini Atzeret to him, because I think we're in the middle of that. Thank you. I think we've hit most of, or all of, and Jonathan Mandell. I mentioned him. Very apologies to him that we had the kind of stuff when we first started doing our Zoom things and putting this on camera and putting this on Facebook and on Zoom, and people would freeze and we have to wait and there'd be delays and stuff, and it was just like, we got him. We're happy we got him. We hope we can get him back next year in a much better Wi-Fi situation. But we thank Jonathan Mandell for trying. Did Jonathan write back? Did he write in?
Oh, I wrote the wrong person before. I feel bad.
No, that's fine. But Jonathan, no. Okay, we're good. But I thank you most of all to my darling, adorable, and amazing wifey wife who has had, will not get into any details, but who has had an absolutely miserable year for a lot of different reasons. And the fact that she's, supporting me and doing this and putting this beautiful thing together for the nonsense that I do every week here on Dave's Gone By is rather extraordinary and amazing. And I love her a lot. Now, 28 plus years into our relationship, 26 years into our marriage. Thank you, my darling. You always make my curtain go up.
That does not sound good.
I wish I could roll back the last 10 seconds, but no. But anyway, this medal, is, as much as David Sheward deserves it, this medal is for you.
Yourself for completing the show.
Right.
Here, wait, let's see.
Our 20th annual Broadway Total Theater Tony Show. Remember that in just a few hours, in a day or so, we'll get the whole episode up on davesgoneby.com, also on archive.org. The show will be also visible on Facebook almost immediately. And then we'll also put the individual appearances, the guests, as separate videos on davesgoneby.com too. So make sure you check that out. If you want to write to me, davesgoneby@aol.com is the place to do it. davesgoneby@aol.com, or just post right on our Facebook page or message me there. Would love, of course, to hear from you. Well, this concludes our 986th episode of the Dave's Gone By show. Now, speaking of feeling nostalgic, because it's the 20th time we've done a Tony show, and I've been covering Broadway and writing about Broadway and seeing Broadway since the mid-1980s, feeling even more nostalgic for next week's regular episode of Dave's Gone By, on at our usual time, 9 until noon on Saturday. I'm going to be talking with my first director. When I was in high school, I tried out for the school play in the spring term of my senior year of high school. I put aside childish things and said, I'm going to try being a performer. And I auditioned for a production they were doing of Neil Simon's Come Blow Your Horn.
Oh, wow.
And I got a role, not the role I thought I would get. And that's a story to tell next week. But I was shocked that I got on the board, but there was my name. And the director of that show has become, in his later years, and even middle years, a director in a lot of different places. He's out in Texas now, directing regularly lots of shows and acting too. His name is Randy Packer, and I hadn't talked to him since, it would be 1981.
Wow.
And catch up
catch up?
Catch up and mustard. We like them both. Although we haven't brought Show Potato on yet. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Show Potato for our special Tony show. But Randy Packer, next week in the Daverhood, the director of my high school, the only show I appeared in high school, Come Blow Your Horn. So, Potato, have you enjoyed the Dave's Gone By Broadway Tony special? Oh my gosh, yes, except what, Potato? What was missing? Any mention of condiments, ketchup, butter? Are there any shows protesting the mashing, cooking, and peeling of my brethren? Honestly, no, I don't. Well, why don't you write that play? And then at some point we can maybe get it. Yeah, he can't really hold it. And typing is very, very slow for him. He goes on the, here, Potato, let's see if you can you write something? Let's see. Okay, hold on. Feed me ketchup. Yeah, it's time. It's lunchtime for Potatoes and us too. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank all of you so much for tuning in, for telling people about the program, for joining me in the Daverhood, whether it's this special day or any day. Really, really wonderful to have you all. So, it just remains for me to remind you that the Tony Awards are on tomorrow night on CBS TV and also, was it Paramount Plus, whatever, if you want to watch them from 8 until 11 p.m. Eastern Time, you have the shows that you might be rooting for or want to see parts of or know more about. That's the whole thing. If you haven't seen any Broadway shows in years, maybe this will whet your appetite. Anyway, bon appetit to all of you, and curtain going down on the Dave's Gone By Tony Special for 2025.